The campus Belle deceived me, but the cold and elegant teacher cherishes only me. Shu-han was reborn. In his previous life, he was cheated by a school beauty and lost all his money. He helped her support her boyfriend and was abandoned. How naive and ridiculous. Before he died, the woman who rushed into the ambulance told him the truth. The school beauty had replaced her identity and he was kept in the dark. He regretted his cowardice. In his new life, he met a cold counselor. He decided to muster up his courage and not let regrets come back. Hello, Teacher Tang, I'm Shu-han. Chapter 1. I am his fiancé, can I sign for him? Bang! Squeak! The sound of a sudden brake sounded. Shu-han, who was crossing the road, was hit by a speeding car and flew dozens of meters away. Shu-han fell heavily to the ground, blood gushing from his mouth and nose. His eyes were empty, but there was a smile on the corner of his mouth. I'm going to be free. 10 minutes ago. The girlfriend who had been in love for 3 years broke up with him and turned to throw herself into the arms of someone else. The girlfriend's waist was hugged by the man, looking at him mockingly, with endless contempt and disdain in her eyes. A bright green hat was covered on his head. Don't be silly. I'm with you just to squeeze you dry. Do you really think I like you? You don't know, I used your money to support my boyfriend for 3 years. What an idiot. By the way, Moonshadow 3 is not my online name. My name is Xiaoliuli. Brother, thank you for the copyright. Har har har. The fragments of breaking up kept flashing in Shu-han's mind. Ding. The piercing alarm sounded, and the ambulance stopped beside him. All the students at the school gate stopped to watch. Hurry up. Lift it up. 4 or 5 emergency personnel in white coats flashed by. I love to read free novels app with the fastest update, no ads, and Chinyan Laoshichun customer service will help you find the books you want to read. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. Close the door. Wait a minute. The sound of hurried footsteps. I'm his teacher. The voice sounded familiar, and Shu-han wanted to open his eyes to see who it was. Come up quickly. Bang. The car door closed and the ambulance whizzed away. Ventilator. Blood pressure is dropping, stop the bleeding quickly. In the blur, Shu-han felt a pair of warm hands holding his fist. Shu-han, hold on, don't fall asleep. We'll be at the hospital soon. Her voice was particularly gentle. You're fine. I'll be with you. The hand wrapped around his fist was trembling a little, and his emotions were on the verge of collapse. Stupid, big stupid. It's been 3 years, don't you know that I'm the real Moon Shadow Trio? A tear slid down the woman's cheek and dripped onto Shu-han's skin. She was breathing rapidly, her voice was choked, and her sobs entered Shu-han's ears. Shu-han, you idiot, wake up quickly. I won't let anything happen to you. Beep beep. The monitor screamed. A straight line appeared on the screen. Has their heart stopped beating? The nurse stared at the straight line that was flattened. She looked at the young man lying there with regret. Record it. The nurse mechanically took out a pen and paper and began to fill it out. Name. Shu-han. Gender. Male. Age. 21 years old. Cause of death. Car accident. Time. 10:08 a.m. on September 12, 2019. The ambulance did not stop at the emergency room and drove straight to the morgue. Impossible. Doctor, please save him. He is so talented, this shouldn't happen. The woman was extremely sad and trembling all over. She lay on Shu-han, unable to accept the fact. I have something else to say, but I didn't tell him that. The doctor and nurse shook their heads with regret. They tried their best. Is it her? Shu-han, who was about to leave, tried to open his eyes. Looking at the woman on his body, he was stunned. Tang. She is Shu-han's counselor. A cool goddess in the eyes of the boys of Haicheng University. In Shu-han's memory, their interactions were mostly in class. Occasionally they met privately, when my cousin returned to China. She seemed to be my cousin's junior sister. The two had a good relationship. Contact his family and come to sign. The nurse handed the form to Tang. He seemed at a loss. Can I sign for him? I need a direct relative, not a teacher. The nurse flatly rejected her request. A moment of silence. Tang Xian's lips moved, and she spoke weakly. I am his fiancé. Is it okay? Fiancé. Shu-han was stunned. When did the fiancé appear? I haven't heard of it. Did the family secretly arrange it? What kind of bloody and brainless drama is this? Wait, she said, she is the real Moon Shadow 3, she did say. The nurse was stung by her expression, took out a pen from her pocket and put it in her hand. Sign it. Tang Xuan's hands trembled, tears dripped on the notice, and the word death was completely soaked. Sizzle. A black and white snowflake danced in front of my eyes. The brain was dizzy, and the world was spinning. Shuhan knocked his head and felt that he was hit by someone, and then a woman's voice came. Catch the thief. Catch him, don't let him run away. Classmate, your mobile phone was stolen by him, why don't you chase him? Without waiting for Shuhan to react, the woman ran out. Mine. Shuhan stood there in a daze. Am I not dead? This scene in front of me has a sense of familiarity. 3 years ago, he was a freshman, and his mobile phone was stolen at the school gate. Could it be? I was reborn. Outrageous? It is easy to dream after reading too many novels. Shuhan stretched out his hand and pinched his thigh. It hurts. Not a dream. When passers-by saw him like this, they looked at him as if he was a fool. What kind of weirdo can go to university? I think he has become stupid from studying too much. The quality of students is getting worse and worse. Shuhan looked up, Haicheng University. For large gold-plated characters, right in front of him. That's the taste. Shuhan was reborn. Really? Reborn to the first day of university. The girl he chased out just now was Tang Xuan. In the previous life, it was she who helped him get his phone back. They met for the first time at the school gate. At that time, I just thought she was so beautiful. Later, I found out that she was the counselor of my class, so I didn't have any improper thoughts. After all, Tang Xuan was the goddess of the whole school, and he, a little transparent person, couldn't attract her attention. So this time, God gave me a chance to start over. Shuhan clenched his fists, his eyes full of stubbornness. I want to take back everything I lost. Classmate, your phone. A slender jade hand reached out to Shuhan. Shuhan, who was still in a daze, suddenly raised his head and looked into Tang Xuan's big watery eyes. After staring at each other for 2 seconds, he quickly looked away. Although he had been in love in his previous life, he was cheated for 3 years and didn't even hold hands. It's normal to see Tang Xuan's heartbeat speed up. She is tall, about 1.7 meters, with long legs, thin waist, and big everywhere. Her black hair hangs on her shoulders, white short-sleeved shirt, light blue jeans, and white shoes. Simple and beautiful. But her face is a little cold. Thank you. Shuhan reached out to take the phone, and the 2 fingertips touched, which made him feel like an electric shock, and his ears instantly became hot. Still as useless as ever? When he reacted, Tang Xuan had disappeared from his sight. In this life, be bolder. Chapter 2, I came for a haircut, seriously. Yao Yao, look, is that a new student? He's kind of handsome. A senior at the welcome desk nudged her friend with her elbow, staring at Shuhan. Yao Yao noticed Shuhan and, disregarding her friend's feelings, enthusiastically approached him. Junior, what major are you in? Let me carry your luggage. Yao Yao grabbed his suitcase and looked at his side profile. From the side, he looked like a celebrity. Who is he? I can't remember, but he's kind of handsome. Thank you. Shuhan was startled by the enthusiastic senior. Screenwriting major. Come with me. Yao Yao, full of energy, led Shuhan to the registration area. Shuhan had intended to refuse, but the other person was so eager that she didn't leave him a chance to speak. With Yao Yao leading, Shuhan arrived at the dormitory door. Room 520 in Building 3, his home for the past 3 years. Yao Yao looked at him with a puzzled expression. Why does he seem more familiar with this place than I do? After a brief persuasion from senior Yao Yao, Shuhan added her on WeChat and bid her farewell. Shuhan entered the dormitory, and the familiar scene brought a sense of comfort. 3 big brothers, we can hang out again. At that moment, Shuhan was alone in the room. He put his luggage in the cupboard, tidied the bed, and sat down. Everything around him felt real but also somewhat surreal. Would he wake up and find it all just a dream? Looking at his reflection in the mirror, he thought, it's time for a haircut. Since he's starting anew, he might as well wash his hair and get a trim. With that thought, Shuhan walked out of the dorm. The cool breeze of the evening in Haicheng blew away the summer heat, leaving a refreshing atmosphere. Shuhan found a barbershop not far from the school on the commercial street. Looking up at the sign, dancing haircuts. Never been here before. Should I try it out? For someone his age, hair was like a second life. Visiting an unfamiliar barber required some courage. Hey, handsome. Need a shampoo? Come on in. Our skills are top notch. Guaranteed satisfaction. Before Shuhan could decide, the glass door was pushed open. A stylishly dressed woman stepped out and greeted him with enthusiasm. How much? Shuhan asked. It wasn't that he was cheap. The problem was, there were too many barber scams, with hidden charges everywhere. A simple haircut could easily cost hundreds, and that was just too risky. Oh, you're so handsome, as long as you want, I'll do it for free. Consider it as promotion. Her voice was sweet, her gaze seductive. She seemed like she was trying to charm him. Shuhan dared not look her in the eye. Something feels off. Before he realized it, he was already pulled inside the barbershop. The pink-themed decor made him tense up. No, something's definitely wrong. Screech. Just as Shuhan was about to flee, a screeching sound of brakes came from outside. Moments later, 5 or 6 uniformed uncles rushed inside. Get down. Everyone, get down. Someone jumped out of the window, block him at the back. The scene was chaotic. Cover your head, squat down. Didn't you hear me? Shuhan felt his collar grabbed, still trying to run. Officers, I'm just here for a shampoo. I haven't done anything wrong. Shuhan lowered his head, nearly face-palming. Everyone court says the same thing. The officer's expression was one of, I've seen it all before. Why don't you ask them? They sound even more sincere than you. This is just like someone in a mental hospital saying they're not crazy. It's over. Shuhan's mind went blank. He was like a mute person suffering in silence. How can I argue about this now? To the police station. Shuhan hung his head like a child caught misbehaving, not daring to look up at the officer. Are you a student of Haicheng University? Yes. Why aren't you focusing on your studies and running around in places like that? Do you think your parents worked hard to support you for this? I didn't do anything. Really, I just came for a haircut. Stubborn. The officer glared at him angrily. I'm calling your teacher. He needs to come pick you up. Shuhan froze. If the teacher came, their whole school would know. He hadn't even started the semester yet and was already caught entering a special place and was arrested by the officer. That would be embarrassing. How could he explain it? No one would believe he was innocent. I'm here for registration, and I don't know the teacher's phone number. Shuhan said the truth. He genuinely didn't know it. Then I'll notify the school leaders. Saying that, the officer headed toward the door to make a call. No, I'll call. Can my family come pick me up? Shuhan nervously asked, his voice barely louder than a mosquito's. It's better to die in front of family than at school. Okay, go ahead. Shuhan's cousin was a PhD student at Haicheng University. However, before he enrolled, she had told him she would go abroad with her advisor. Shuhan wasn't sure she had left yet, but he had to try. Thinking about his cousin's departure time, his mind went blank. Some things are forgotten over time. Shuhan took the phone, wiped the sweat off his palms, and dialed a number based on memory. A few seconds later, the call connected. A lazy voice came from the other side. Who is it? Second sister, it's Xiao Han. Huh. The voice on the other end sounded surprised. Xiao Han? Did you change your phone number? No, just listen to me first. Shuhan briefly explained the situation, especially emphasizing that he was just there for a haircut. Har har har. His second sister's laughter was so loud, even the officer heard it. Silly boy, I'm sorry to tell you, I've already landed in the beautiful country. What should I do now? Shuhan was about to cry. Was the school really going to send someone to pick him up? But, as long as you say something nice, your beautiful and kind-hearted second sister will help you out. His second sister, Shu Ruolan, was his uncle's daughter. Shuhan had been raised by his uncle, so they had grown up together. Shu Ruolan loved it when her younger brother complimented her. Second sister, you are the most beautiful princess in the world. Please help me, brother. Shuhan lowered his voice, trying to please his princess second sister on the phone. Since you're so sincere, wait for it. The call ended, and Shu Han finally relaxed. He had chosen Haicheng University to be close to his second sister, who could take care of him. But now, she had gone across the ocean. Not long after, an older officer walked in with a document and handed it to the officer in charge. It was the barbershop owner's statement. The statement said that Shu Han hadn't done anything wrong and was a good citizen. 10 minutes later, a graceful figure appeared at the police station entrance. As soon as she entered, she caught everyone's attention. "Hello, I'm here to pick up Shu Han." Chapter 3, Is this place legit? Shu Han, like a child caught doing something wrong, followed behind Tang. They walked at a leisurely pace, one in front and the other trailing behind. A gentle breeze blew by, carrying a faint fragrance that settled on Shu Han. The scent wasn't overpowering, but it was refreshing, making him feel at ease. It must be the perfume the girl was wearing. Perfume is dangerous, don't touch it, some strange thoughts popped into his mind. For a moment, Shu Han's mind wandered far away. Suddenly, Tang, walking ahead, stopped in her tracks. Shu Han, not paying attention, bumped into her. R. Shu Han felt something soft against his chest and quickly snapped back to reality. Their eyes met, and Tang quickly stepped back. "Sorry." Shu Han hurriedly explained, "I spaced out just now." He wasn't very expressive, and when facing girls, he often found it hard to speak. Tang looked at the big boy in front of her, her expression neutral. If it weren't for her good relationship with her senior sister, she wouldn't have come to the police station to pick him up. Glancing at the time, it was already 11 o'clock. The dorms must be closed by now. "Do you have a place to stay?" she asked politely, showing concern for her senior sister's younger brother. Shu Han checked the time and realized he couldn't return to the dorm. "I can stay at an internet cafe," he replied. "You're going to sleep at an internet cafe?" Tang raised her chin slightly, exposing her fair neck as she looked at him. Shu Han quickly averted his gaze, unable to hold eye contact. Her collarbone was delicate and tempting, and looking lower was hard to resist. Shu Han wanted to say he could stay at her place, but he didn't dare. "The chairs at the internet cafe are quite comfortable," he blurted out, and immediately regretted it after the words left his mouth. "Fine," she said curtly, turning and walking away. Shu Han stared at her graceful back, his mouth slightly open, but he didn't say anything. She was so distant. Tang returned to the teacher's dormitory and quickly texted senior sister Shu, "He's out now." Shu replied almost immediately, "My little brother, isn't he quite handsome?" Tang, a bit silly. As soon as the message was sent, it was quickly retracted. After all, calling someone's younger brother silly in front of their sister didn't seem very polite. On the other end, Shu Ruolan, senior sister Shu, saw the message right away and then noticed it was retracted. She murmured to herself, "He really is a bit silly. Who goes to a barber and ends up getting caught by the police?" Meanwhile, Shu Han stood in front of an internet cafe, hesitating. The memory of being taken into the police station was still fresh in his mind. His heart was uneasy as the place didn't seem very legitimate. "Boss, is this place legit?" he asked, catching the boss off guard. "What kind of question is that? Are you looking for an illegitimate place?" The boss replied. "No, I'm just asking." Shu Han pulled out his ID and handed it to the boss. After finishing the registration process, he found a seat by the window. The boss shook his head helplessly as he watched Shu Han walk to his seat. What's going on with the younger generation these days? Shu Han logged into his account, not to play games like other young people, but to open a forum. On this forum, users could choose modules based on their preferences: essays, daily happenings, novels, short dramas, light stories, and more. He liked writing short scripts there, and based on the clicks, he could earn money. If the story was good enough and the copyright was sold for adaptation into a short drama, it could bring in a good income. Shu Han stared at the screen for several seconds, wondering where to start today's story. Rebirth. Being mistaken for a customer. Getting caught at the police station. Or something else. As these thoughts crossed his mind, Tang Xueying's face appeared in his mind. He imagined crying in the ambulance and meeting her again at the school gate. Shu Han quickly clicked on the chat room, where the top contact was Moonlight Trio. They met on the forum because Shu Han had written a short script, and Moonlight Trio had pointed out some factual errors. Later, they became familiar, and the other person would voice Shu Han's works and upload them to an audiobook platform. Moonlight Trio's voice was popular because it was pleasant and versatile. What Shuhan didn't expect was that she was his counselor, a person he had barely spoken to in 3 years. He had been unknowingly freeloading on her identity all this time. The other person was online. Shuhan stared at the chat box for nearly 10 minutes, not knowing how to start the conversation. His emotional intelligence was low. Ding. As he was wondering what to say, she sent a message, a new starting point. A new starting point. Was she going to be a counselor? Shuhan remembered that during the first class meeting, Tang had mentioned that they were her first batch of students. Shuhan copied her words and added at the end, "Shall we work hard together?" She replied almost immediately with a good luck emoji. It started to rain outside the window, and Shuhan turned to look. Cold mountain solitude, it's raining. Moonlight Trio, yes, it's raining. Cold mountain solitude, are you in Haicheng? Moonlight Trio, are you here too? With a surprised emoji. Cold mountain solitude, Haicheng University. Tang stared at the screen, appreciating Shuhan's talent, but still not knowing much about him. Listening to the sound of rain outside the window, she suddenly had a thought, got up, and walked to the window. That little guy? It's raining, that little guy isn't he really going to sleep on the sofa at the internet cafe, is he? In September, Haicheng's day was hot under the sun, but at night, the cold wind made it a bit chilly, especially with the rain. Thinking of his silly look, Tang was certain her guess was correct. Shushuajia had been good to her, so she should take care of her brother. With that thought, she grabbed a jacket from the cupboard and an umbrella, quickly heading out the door. Inside the internet cafe, Shuhan closed the chat box that had been silent for a while and shivered slightly. It was getting a bit cold. Boss, 1 instant noodles, add sausage and egg. Got it. 5 minutes later, a steaming bowl of noodles was placed in front of Shuhan. This long-lost feeling is really making me crave, he murmured, rubbing his hands before digging in. One hot bite of noodles activated all his cells, and for a moment, he felt like the happiest person in the world. Shuhan was easily satisfied. A bowl of noodles was enough to win him over. A shadow loomed over his head, blocking the light. When he looked up, Tang seemed to be glowing. Are you an angel? Shuhan opened his mouth, his noodles still hanging from his lips. You didn't eat? She asked. Shuhan finally reacted. What are you doing here? Chapter 4, The Fairy Lives Next Door. Follow me. Tang spoke in a cold tone and walked ahead. Shuhan grabbed the phone on the table and followed her. The rain was still falling and there was already water flowing on the road. Tang opened the umbrella, stood there, looked at the little guy, didn't come over, but looked back. Are you planning to walk in the rain? Come in. Shuhan took a step forward and walked under the umbrella. Tang subconsciously took a half step to the side. Seeing her resistance, Shuhan also leaned towards him. Half of their shoulders were wet from the rain dripping from the umbrella. Please move in a little, your clothes are all wet. Shuhan couldn't help but speak, but didn't dare to look at the other person's expression. Why are you still so cowardly? Didn't you say you should be bolder? It only takes 5 minutes to get from the internet cafe to the teacher's apartment. Along the way, Shuhan kept stealing glances at the other person out of the corner of his eyes. Is this to take him home? Teacher's apartment building 2, room 1101. He remembered that it was the house that Tang and her second sister Shu Ruolan rented together. In his previous life, he had been there once when he helped his second sister get something. Feeling that the atmosphere was a bit awkward, Shuhan prepared himself mentally and finally spoke. Thank you for today. Still indifferent. Senior, what year are you in? Postgraduate. Although Shuhan knew the news, he still opened his mouth to make conversation. I can't just tell him that I'm his student right away. That would be considered a mental illness. Tang felt Shuhan's gaze and felt a little weird in her heart. Senior sister Shu Ruolan is the type of person who is very friendly with everyone. Why is it that his little brother is just the opposite? Is this what others call complementarity, a brother and sister, one is lively and the other is dull? But she didn't know that they were not biological siblings. If she knew, she probably wouldn't think so. After returning to the apartment, Tang went straight into the kitchen and poured a cup of hot water for Shuhan. There are only noodles at home. I'll go cook them for you. No, thank you. I'm not hungry. I've troubled you a lot. Shu Han quickly stopped him. He was not lying, he was indeed not hungry now, or perhaps he was too hungry. Are you sure? Tang Xuyin looked at him with questioning eyes. Yes, sure. Shu Han nodded. It was his first time in a girl's room, and he felt a little strange because he was alone with a girl. You live in your sister's room. Tang Xuyin pointed to Shu Ruolan's room. No, I'll just sleep on the sofa. Shu Han glanced at the sofa and thought about it again. If it's inconvenient for you, I can sleep on the floor in my room. Okay, clean it up then. After saying that, Tang Xuyin turned back to the bedroom and slammed the door shut. Shu Han heard the sound of the door being locked from the inside. He glanced at the layout of the apartment. It was a small apartment with 2 bedrooms and a living room, a balcony, and a kitchen. It was quite comfortable with the sun shining in at noon. Shu Han walked into his second sister's room and looked at the time. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning. He sent a message to his second sister without hesitation. At this time, it should be daytime where she is. Sure enough, Shu Ruolan replied quickly, there are new sheets and quilt covers in the closet, you can just change into them and sleep on the bed. I won't be going back for the time being, and I don't dislike you. Following his second sister's request, Shu Han quickly made the bed and lay down. After a busy day, I was thinking about taking a shower, but it doesn't seem appropriate, so I'll just leave it that way for now. Bite. Just as Shu Han was about to put down his phone, a message popped up in the forum chat room. Yuying and the other 2, I am also at Haicheng University. Shu Han turned his head and looked at the wall. They were clearly separated by a wall, but they acted as if they didn't know each other. Han Sangaying, my senior schoolmate took me home. Next door, a reply message popped up on Tang Xiying's phone, my senior student took me home. She suddenly turned her head and looked, as if she wanted to see through the wall, with some disbelief in her eyes. No way. No way. Isn't it such a coincidence? No, it must not be pure coincidence. She was trying her best to suppress some of her crazy thoughts. Take a deep breath and reply, is the senior sister pretty? Love to read free novels updates the fastest, no ads, Old Bookworm customer service will help you find the books you want to read. Shu Han lay on the bed, reading the messages, unable to sleep at all. I immediately replied she is super beautiful, just like a fairy. I can feel her fairy spirit even when I live next door to her. Tang Xuyin looked at the words, next door, and pondered for a long time. The world really is so small. The author of the script he dubbed his senior sister Shu's younger brother. They met twice today, and in the end, she brought him back personally. But, he is really a bit silly. The figure of Shu Han appeared in Tang Xuyin's mind. Is it really him? She finally chose to turn off her phone and go to sleep. After dawn, Shu Han walked out of the bedroom. There was no one in the living room and the senior sister's bedroom was also closed. It seemed impolite to knock on the door. Finally, he left a note and left quickly. Back to the dormitory. As Shu Han opened the door, a boy followed him in. He is about 1.8 meters tall, with delicate features and a bit of a bookish air. He is definitely a school idol. Forest. Shu Han smiled and hesitated to speak. After all, it was the first time they met, and it was too strange to call out the other person's name directly. Hello, my new roommate. My name is Shu Han, and I'm from Chizhou. Hello, Lin Jinghao, from Haicheng. The other party was also very enthusiastic and looked very dignified and generous, but in another week, he would be a big boy. The 2 exchanged a few pleasantries, and the other 2 roommates also checked in before noon. Wang Ziheng, from Qinggang, a sports student. He is about 183 centimeters tall, with muscular body and slightly dark skin, which may be due to long-term training outside. Zhao Lefen, from Kyoto. He is about 1.75 meters tall and speaks very straightforwardly and quickly. Don't be fooled by the fact that they all act serious now. Once they get familiar with the truth, they will all be a bunch of hypocrites. Shu Han looked at the 3 of them, with the corners of his mouth raised, as if he remembered something particularly funny. No, it should be embarrassing thing. 5:20 Tetradent, everyone assembled. The 4 of them packed their things, exchanged contact information, and then went around the campus together in the afternoon. So many beautiful trips. Zhao Lefen's eyes were almost glued to others. There is nothing bad in his eyes. You look like you have never seen the world. Wang Ziheng kept some distance from him, fearing that others would know that he knew this person. Looking at beautiful women can prolong your life. This is a painless way to maintain your health. Do you understand? Har har talented. Zhao Leffen's words made everyone laugh. A purebred living treasure. Look, is that girl looking at me? Don't be so narcissistic, she's just looking at Jinghao. That's right, Zhao Leffen was looking at the beauties, but the beauties were all looking at Lin Jinghao. He is so beautiful. Yes, it is beauty. Chapter 5, Encounter at Class Meeting. When Tang Xuyin returned to the apartment, it was already dark. There were too many things to deal with for the new students, and it was her first time as a counselor, so she was not very familiar with the job yet. The room was empty, as she expected. Little guy, you must have left long ago. There was a note on the table. Sorry to bother you, I will treat you to a meal when I have time. Thank you. At the end, there was a smiley face drawn at the signature, and the two words, Shuhan, were written. The handwriting is so ugly, it doesn't look like the author has any talent. Achoo! Shuhan, who had just returned to the dormitory, sneezed for no reason. Who is scolding me? What's wrong with you? Zhao Leffen asked curiously, you caught a cold after going out? Acclimated. Upon seeing this, Wang Ziheng immediately made up for it. I think it's too empty. The colorful world has just begun, brother, you must take care of yourself. Lin Jinghao patted Shuhan on the shoulder, acting like an experienced person. The four of them smiled at each other and began to look forward to their wonderful life in the next 3 years. The freshman group has been notified that there will be a class meeting tomorrow. Wang Ziheng was holding a mobile phone, a true information liaison. I heard that our instructor is a woman, and she's a graduate student. I've heard about it too. I wonder if she's pretty or not. A teacher-student romance wouldn't be bad. Zhao Leffen said, with a lewd expression on his face. Dude, you're a bit vulgar. Control it. Shuhan glanced at them, said nothing more, sat quietly in his seat, and turned on the computer. Although he was reborn, there were some things he didn't want to interfere with because they were all things they had to go through. If I clear the minefields for them, they will not be able to grow. 10,000 words are not as unforgettable as one thing. Next morning. When Shuhan woke up, the other three were still sleeping soundly. I looked at the time, it was a little after 9, so I still made it. The group notified us that the class meeting will start at 10 o'clock, and military training uniforms will be distributed afterwards. After getting up and washing up, I called my sons to get up and get ready to go to the classroom. The second floor of the teaching building. Academy of Film and Television, Screenwriting Class 2. Shuhan and his 3 roommates found an empty seat and sat down side by side. Zhao Leffen's eyes scanned all the girls in the class as if calling out their names. The needle doesn't poke, the quality is very high. What does it have to do with you? Wang Ziheng looked at him speechlessly. Please wipe your saliva. How many years have you not seen a woman? Lin Jinghao also felt a little disgusted. The 3 of them regretted sitting with this guy. Just watch it, at least you can keep a low profile. Just as the 3 of them were moving away from him, a beautiful figure walked in. Wow. Fuck, it's so beautiful. There was a commotion among the crowd, and Shuhan looked up. A beautiful girl who looks familiar yet unfamiliar is already standing on the podium. She wore light makeup and had a smile on her delicate face. Her expression was a little cold, but charming enough. A white shirt paired with black trousers is intellectual and generous, with a pure royal sister style. Her appearance attracted all the attention in the classroom. Some boys can no longer control themselves and want to show their charm. Beauty, are you here in the human world to survive? Tang Xuyin smiled calmly and signaled everyone to be quiet. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Tang Xuyin. I am your counselor and also your senior. How can I bear to graduate when I have such a beautiful teacher? Teacher, what are you studying? Can we make friends? The hormones of the boys in the audience exploded and the booing continued. Quiet. Tang Xuyin's voice was not loud, but it was cold. Everyone fell silent instantly. We can be friends outside of class, but in class, I will be very strict. With just one word, no one dare to make trouble anymore. This is the person who decides whether they can graduate. If they really make her angry, they will suffer. Now, everyone, please introduce yourselves and get to know each other. At the same time, those who want to run for class leaders can put forward their names. Let's start from here. Tang pointed to the first row, and everyone began to introduce themselves in order. Lin Jinghao leaned towards Shu Han and whispered, "I saw her photo on the confession wall. I didn't expect her to be prettier in person than in the photo. But she felt a little cold. Cold and beautiful goddess. How can you not be cold?" Wang Ziheng immediately came over and added, "Whatever you say, I want to listen." Zhao Lefen came over and the three of them quickly shut up. Shu Han glanced at the podium. Tang Shuiying was holding the roster and listening to the freshmen's self-introductions. "Hello everyone, my name is Han Feifei." Hearing this name, Shu Han frowned. Hearing the name again reminded him of the 3 years he had been deceived. "What's wrong with you? You look a little sad." Lin Jinghao, who was standing aside, looked at Shu Han's trembling body and asked with concern. "I'm fine." Shu Han suppressed his anger. "Han Feifei, the school belle of our class." Wang Ziheng whispered. "I heard that someone confessed to him on his first day here. She looks innocent, she's my type." This was said by Zhao Lefen. "Anyway, they are all his vegetables, and they have grown into plastic greenhouses." Shu Han smiled and said nothing. If you knew that beneath her innocent appearance she had a face of a vampire, it would be too late to regret. Tang Shuiying glanced around and suddenly her eyes widened, as if she had discovered something incredible. "Is it him?" She saw the familiar little guy. Although she didn't see his whole face, a side view was enough. Looking through the list in my hand, I found the words Shu Han on the list. Tang Shuiying, who appeared calm on the surface, was trembling in her heart. "How come we meet here again? He's my student." At this time, it was Wang Ziheng's turn to introduce himself. He stood up very domineeringly. "My name is Wang Ziheng, a sports student." His voice was deep and powerful. "I see no one wants to run for class monitor yet, I want to give it a try." "Good. Par. After he finished speaking, Zhao Lefen took the lead in applauding to express his support for Wang Ziheng. Shu Han and Lin Jinghao also joined in immediately, vowing to help their brother ascend to the throne. "It's easier to get things done if you have someone in the court, and it will be much more convenient if my roommate is the class monitor." Seeing that others had no objection, Tang Shuiying also expressed her agreement. Next, Shu Han, from Chizhou. Tang Shuiying looked at Shu Han, who stood up. They looked at each other and quickly looked away, as if they had never met before. "Is it over?" The girl, who was full of expectations, was a little confused. "Isn't this introduction too short? Handsome guys just have personality, right? Look, this one is more handsome." As he spoke, Lin Jinghao stood up. Like Shu Han, he said his name and sat back. In terms of appearance, Lin Jinghao is better than Shu Han, he admits this. Chapter 6 Second Sister Calls. The class meeting process is over. As the class monitor, Wang Ziheng created a new group. All the freshmen in screenwriting class 2 joined the group, including their cool instructor. Tang Shuiying joined the group chat. After this message appeared, the boys started to add WeChat like crazy. The result was that all of them were rejected. Tang Shuiying, if you have any questions, just find me in the group. If it's urgent, call me. One sentence dispelled everyone's thoughts. After all, things like teacher-student love are more common in movies, and in real life, it is inevitable that people will criticize it. As a teacher, I would definitely be on guard like this. Shu Han walked out of the classroom with his military training uniform. Suddenly, someone called him from behind, "Shu Han." Looking back, a girl appeared in front of him. "You called me?" "Yes, I'm from Chizhou 2, Chizhou number for middle school, Yi Xiaowen." Shu Han was stunned. It turned out to be his fellow villager. "Chizhou number for middle school, Shu Han. What a coincidence, we're from the same school." Yi Xiaowen was a little surprised. She had no other thoughts about Shu Han, she just felt that he was a fellow villager and wanted to get to know him. Unexpectedly, they went to the same high school. "We had never met before, but we were assigned to the same class after entering university." After exchanging contact information, the two went their separate ways. "Brother, is that okay? Can you introduce him to me?" Zhao Lefen stood behind Shu Han without him noticing. "Are you really not picky? Whatever you pick up in the basket is a vegetable." Zhao Lefen was quite frank. "This is a matter of probability. You see, the one I like may not necessarily like me, and the one who likes me may not be the one I like." Is there anything you don't like? Lin Jinghao looked at him in shock, disbelief written all over his face. Do you really think I'm a beast? Zhao Lefen was not angry either, he was very open-minded. Expand your circle, and you'll have a better chance of meeting your true love. If you only know one or two girls, and neither of you is suitable, why would you force yourself to do that? After hearing this, Shu Han actually felt that there was some truth in it. What a logical genius this is, coming up with such a brilliant theory. Shu Han turned into the stairs without noticing that there was an eye not far away, staring at him. Even the fact that he added the little girl's microblog did not escape her eyes. Little guy, you are quite popular, right? On their way back, Lin Jinghao is like a walking harvester, with girls constantly coming to him to ask for micro forks. However, he refused them all, with the reason being, he has a girlfriend. This made Zhao Lefen extremely envious. No, I'm also very handsome, why doesn't anyone see how handsome I am? You are indeed a talent. I don't know whether you have a watch or not. Lin Jinghao ruthlessly poked at his wound, leaving no room for mercy. Tang Xuyin sat in the office, glancing at her cell phone from time to time. She rejected many friend requests in one go, but seemed to be expecting something. Could it be that I didn't see it and have already rejected him? In that case, based on his personality, he probably wouldn't add me. But I paid close attention and didn't see his name. Tang, are you going back to the dormitory? While she was lost in thought, her best friend Jiang Yanan came to her side. Jiang Yanan is Tang Xuyin's roommate and best friend. She is very beautiful, gentle and a soft girl. Tang Xuyin saw her best friend and immediately replied. I'll be back in a bit, I still have work to do. Want me to wait for you? You go back first. Okay, I'll go back and wait for you. Although Tang Xuyin rented a house outside, she still had some things in the dormitory and would occasionally go back to live there. Bite. The phone rings. Tang Xuyin quickly took a look. News push, a certain young actress was revealed to have a child out of wedlock. When she saw this news, there was an inexplicable sense of loss in her eyes. This silly boy, I'm not going to add him myself, am I? Bite. The phone rang again. Tang Xuyin was a little impatient and wanted to turn off the sound of the push message. Friend request, Han. A student who owes you a meal. Looking at this line of words, Tang Xuyin's mouth corners curled up. Just remember to owe me a meal. Opposite. As soon as Shu Han put down his phone, a reminder popped up. Tang Xuyin approved your friend request. You're so stupid, what are you laughing at? Zhao Lefen thought Shu Han was a little weird and didn't look like a normal person. I'm afraid he didn't escape from the mental hospital. Shu Han didn't say anything, but clicked on Tang Xuyin's circle of friends and took a look. Well, as he expected, there was nothing, just a dotted line. Would you like to have dinner together? Shu Han thought about it, feeling unsure. After all, he was not really familiar with her. In the end, I decided to wait until the military training is over. Look, the confession wall has been taken over by our goddess instructor. Zhao Lefen's eyes were as big as cow eggs, and he wished he could get into his cell phone. The number 1 post on the confession wall is Tang Xuyin standing on the podium. I don't know who took this photo and posted it online. Love, is it too late to change classes now? A cold and beautiful goddess. She can only be described as fairy. I'm so jealous. Screenwriting class 2, right? I want to go and take the class. Add me 1. Plus 1. Judging from the situation, it looks like they are going to crowd out the second screenwriter team. Protect our instructors and never retreat. I will never retreat. All the boys in class 2 who received the news rushed in and started commenting crazily. I vow to protect the beautiful instructor. Shu Han looked at the comments on the screen and felt inexplicably stressed. There seemed to be quite a few competitors. Night. As usual, Shu Han opened the forum, logged into his account, and started writing short stories. The money from writing short plays was enough to support his college life. He remembered that after he went to college, he never received tuition from his uncle again. However, every month, my uncle still deposits the fees into his account. Everyone in the family understands his character and knows that he is not good at speaking up, so if he were to ask for something himself, it would be harder than climbing a mountain to get to the sky. It was also because of this that the second sister Shu Ruolan would embarrass him every time she called him, deliberately asking him to say something nice. Ding-a-ling. Shu Han looked at the phone. It was his second sister calling. At this time, it must be dawn over there. Second sister. Xiaohan, are you still living with me? No, I went back to the dormitory. I went there last night because the dormitory was closed. Have you seen my junior sister? Junior sister. It's the pretty girl who picked you up at the police station. When Shuhan heard the word police station, his whole body trembled. Can we please not mention this place from now on? Although it is sacred. Oh. I see. She's your instructor. She's not a bad person, it's just her personality. You should have seen it. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, that's it. If you have anything to say, send a message. Phone calls are expensive. Before Shuhan could reply, the other party hung up the phone. I glanced at the time. I have military training tomorrow, so I should go to bed early. Chapter 7. Don't be so pitiful. Everyone assemble. Line up according to your height. Hello everyone, my last name is Li, and I am your instructor. For the next week, I will lead you in training. Par par par. After instructor Li finished speaking, applause broke out to express his welcome. Use this classmate as the base point and spread out, one arm's length away from each other. Everyone moved upon hearing the sound. Basic training, military posture for half an hour. If anyone moves around, each person will have to spend 10 extra minutes. R. Everyone let out a cry of complaint to express their dissatisfaction. That's too little, right? Then at 20 minutes. Classmates, don't dare to say another word. Everyone knows that if you say one more word, you will be the one who suffers. The sun seems to be particularly excited these days, and it has baked these little guys so hard that they have lost their temper. Please let it rain. I need heavy rain to nourish my young seedling. Break time. A boy in the class drew a strange totem on the ground and muttered something, like a priest praying for rain. Shuhan took a look and raised the corners of his mouth. There is nothing wrong with saying that the end of science is metaphysics. Look, seniors and juniors are here to show us your warmth. No, it's a cold drink. The freshmen turned their heads and saw that there were indeed a dozen seniors walking towards them with carts carrying bottles of mineral water. The savior is here. You've worked hard, fellow students. Come and have some water. The freshmen took the water, but they didn't look very happy. Because the senior girl was eating ice cream and the senior boy was chewing watermelon, and they were walking around in front of them without any martial ethics. Xiaohan, I want to hit someone, don't stop me. Wang Ziheng grabbed Shuhan and pretended to fight him to the death. It was you who pulled me, okay. Shuhan pushed his hand away and looked at him. Go ahead, I won't stop you. After a moment of silence, he found a way out. Forget it, I have to maintain my demeanor as a class monitor. The main reason is that I'm afraid of hurting them. My lightning 5 whips have reached perfection, so I can't just use them casually. Behind them. A senior schoolmate walked up to Lin Jinghao, took out an ice cream and handed it to him. Junior, can you add me on WeChat? Sorry, I have a girlfriend. It's okay, just leave it to a friend. My girlfriend doesn't like me having female friends. After hearing this, the senior student no longer wanted to make herself bored and left on her own. So handsome, even when he rejects others, he's still so likable. So devoted. I love you. After seeing off the senior students, we welcomed the classmates. Lin Jinghao looked at Shuhan and the other two for help. I can't help you. Shuhan spread his hands. Wang Ziheng and Zhao Leffen gave him a kind smile. It turns out that handsome guys also have troubles. Zhao Leffen murmured in a low voice. I don't know whether to envy or pity. Everyone stand up. Instructor Li gave the order and everyone returned to their seats. Thump. At this moment, Zhao Leffen in front of Shuhan tilted his body and was about to fall to the ground. Shuhan was quick-witted and grabbed his arm. What's going on? Report. Someone fainted. Hearing the sound, everyone gathered around. Spread out, keep the air circulating. The instructor hurried over to check the situation. Wang Ziheng and Lin Jinghao also ran over when they saw it was Zhao Leffen. Send to the infirmary. Without thinking too much, Shuhan carried Zhao Leffen on his back and ran to the infirmary. Wang Ziheng and Lin Jinghao followed behind. After all, they are roommates, and they have accumulated a lot of affection during the few days they have been together. In the office, Tang heard that her student had fainted and rushed to the infirmary. Zhao Leffen was lying on the hospital bed and the doctor gave him a basic examination. Low blood sugar, maybe I was sitting for too long and got up suddenly. Upon hearing this result, Shuhan and the other two breathed a sigh of relief. I'm glad you're okay. After resting for a while, Zhao Lefen also woke up and looked at the three people with a confused face. What's going on? Am I not turning around? Is the bed turning around? Seeing him wake up, Wang Ziheng pinched Zhao Lefen's cheeks and said with a smile. My goodness, you scared your three fathers to death. There are three more fathers for no apparent reason. At this time, Tang Xuyin walked in. She tied her hair into a ponytail and wore a white t-shirt and wide leg pants, looking clean and refreshing. How's it going? Are you going to the hospital? When Shuhan heard their voice, he looked up suddenly. Their eyes met, and his heart began to beat wildly. Tang Xuyin's eyes flickered and her face remained calm. The doctor said it's hypoglycemia. I can't participate in the next military training. Wang Ziheng told the story very conscientiously. In this way, Zhao Lefen successfully escaped the subsequent training, which was a blessing in disguise. The last night of military training. All the freshmen sat together, leaving space in the middle for performances. All the students sang a song about strengthening the army, followed by a military boxing performance by the instructors. Brother soldier, my love. Watching the instructors' performances, the little fans couldn't help but become infatuated with them. The instructors finished their performance and left in an orderly manner. One more. One more. The shouts of lingering desire echoed throughout the playground. Instructor Wang picked up the microphone and walked to the center of the stage. At this moment, he put away his sternness and smiled. Next, it's your turn to perform. You can express yourself freely, or you can put on a show as a dormitory unit. Free play is basically impossible. After the instructor finished speaking, only one girl came up on stage with great spirit and performed a bit of street dance, but the audience quickly lost interest. In the end, there was no choice but to force every dormitory to put on a show to liven up the atmosphere. Which one of you will go up? Wang Ziheng looked at Xu Han and Lin Jinghao seriously and asked curiously. You are the squad leader, shouldn't you be in charge of this? Lin Jinghao has a flattering face. I second that. Xu Han quickly expressed his opinion, fearing that this shameful pot would fall on his head. Shit, what am I going to perform? Breaking rocks with my chest. Can that be broadcast? Yes, who says you can't? You can charm thousands of boys and girls. I support you. I second that. Lin Jinghao and Xu Han sang the same tune, ready to push the squad leader into the fire pit. Go ahead, man. He's handsome. He can even walk on the catwalk. The squad leader made a suggestion that even Xu Han couldn't refuse. This is good, this is good. You're such a fart. Lin Jinghao rolled his eyes at Xu Han, you are such a dog. You were just being so stubborn just now. How could you change now? Xu Han chuckled. The point is, I want to see it, too. It's your turn. Before the three of them had made a decision, their names were called. Lin Jinghao and Wang Ziheng exchanged glances and pushed Xu Han out. By the time Xu Han reacted, he was already standing in the center of the stage. You can't play it like this. Student, what kind of show are you going to perform? Chapter 8 Large-Scale Social Death Scene. In the audience, Lin Jinghao and Wang Ziheng, whose conspiracy had succeeded, looked at Xu Han with wicked smiles on their faces. Now that you're on that level, you can't be too socially retarded. Xu Han took the microphone and spoke softly. I'd like to dedicate a song called Serious Snow to everyone. Please forgive me if my singing is not good. Many freshmen have already taken out their mobile phones, pointed their cameras at the stage, and started looking forward to it. Xu Han closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and spoke slowly. The snow is falling so deeply and so seriously. Reflecting my wounds lying in the snow. That's love in the dead of night. Secretly controlling my heart. I love you so seriously, but I still hear you say it's impossible. Xu Han sang softly, but it resonated with countless people. This video was quickly uploaded to the confession wall, Chibar. Finally, after the freshmen said goodbye to their instructors, it meant that the military training life was completely over. Teacher's apartment. After taking a shower, Tang Xuyin saw the message from Jiang Yanan. Jiang Yanan first posted a video, followed by a message. Is this boy from your class? Push his micro fork to me. She saw the video on the confession wall and saw the comments saying it was from the second class screenwriter team, so she sent it to Tang Xuyin. Tang Shuyin clicked on the video and saw Shu Han singing in his military training uniform. She sat on the sofa and listened quietly, with the corners of her lips raised. Really good, full of emotion, slightly magnetic. He said that he likes winter the most, and there is a word Han in his name. Tang Shuyin typed a line in the dialog box and sent it to Jiang Yanan. He seems to be in our class, what do you want him to do? The other party replied in seconds. Jiang Yanan, don't you think he is a little different? He has a melancholy temperament, but also a little handsome. Tang Shuyin received a message from her bestie, but for a moment she didn't want to reply. Why am I so resistant when other girls ask for Shu Han's contact information? And after Shu Han added his Weibo, he never sent her a message. Tang Shuyin clicked on Shu Han's Weibo, but there was not a single word in his circle of friends. I opened the avatar and took a look. It was a crystal clear snowflake. Do you like winter and snow? No wonder he's a bit silly. While she was thinking, her finger accidentally touched the phone. Buzz. The phone vibrated twice. You patted Han and said you wanted to call him for dinner. What the hell? Tang Shuyin's body froze and she stared at the dialog box. Withdraw. These two words flashed through my mind and I quickly tried the operation. The result is that once you take a photo, you can't take it back. This software is not designed properly. I want feedback. You said you were careless. The teacher asked the student to understand the situation, and this is a very good reason. Tang Shuyin walked into the bedroom and closed the door. Such a stupid person might not be able to see at all. Although Shu Han is stupid, he is not blind. He was writing something on the forum when his phone vibrated. He opened it and saw more than a dozen unread messages. Among them was a friend request, Han Feifei? When he saw this name, Shu Han still felt angry. This time, he chose to refuse directly. The thought of Han Feifei's hypocritical face made him uncomfortable. One cannot fall in the same place twice. Shu Han saw the person who sent the message. Her profile picture was a girl's back. I opened the dialog box and found that she patted herself and didn't say anything. Shu Han's mouth corners raised. Take the initiative to send the first message. I still owe you a meal. When are you free? After this sentence was sent, the other party did not respond yet. Shu Han put down his phone and went to wash up. The person opposite rolled his eyes. This straight ball is too straight. In the end, Tang Shuyin didn't push the micro fork to her best friend. I glanced at the forum chat room and found that Han Sangying was not online, so I went to sleep. The next day. After a week of military training, the freshmen finally have a day to rest. This is a great time to reconnect with your friends. At Wang Ziheng's suggestion, the 520 Tetradent is ready to go out for team building activities. It's called team building, which means singing and drinking. Whoever gets drunk at the end will get to watch the Big Daddy recognition scene. Shu Han was not interested in anything else, he just liked to watch them lying on the ground recognizing their father. He had already fully charged his mobile phone and prepared the memory to prevent his eldest sons from denying their deeds after sobering up. Boss, 1 box per person. No, I came up to drink from the box. What's wrong? Are you scared? Call me daddy now and I'll let you go. Whoever can't do it is a grandson. Obviously, Zhao Lefen is very good at talking. Shu Han watched silently, waiting for the final exciting moment. After one round, Zhao Lefen's eyes were blurry. He put his arms around Lin Jinghao's neck and was about to kiss him. Get lost. Don't get close to me. Lin Jinghao pushed his face away with disgust. Brother Hao, I found out that you are my true love. Zhao Lefen looked at Lin Jinghao with eyes full of affection, his eyes were almost tearing. Please let me go. If you love me, don't hurt me. When Wang Ziheng heard this and looked at the expressions of the two men, he almost drowned himself in a gulp of beer. Shu Han knew the opportunity, turned on the camera on his mobile phone and acted as a professional photographer. Drink this cup of wine, and follow me to travel the world. Dry. Li Lefen grabbed half a bottle of wine and stuffed it into his mouth. 3 seconds later, it turns into a human fountain. Half an hour later, the four of them staggered out of the hotel. Wang Ziheng and Lin Jinghao supported Zhao Lefen and walked in front, their feet moving as if they were stepping on cotton, 1 step deep and 1 step shallow. How about we become sworn brothers? Wang Ziheng suddenly had an idea and fell to his knees on the street. Shu Han saw this scene from behind and covered his face. The life and death scene reappeared. I'm Wang Ziheng, Lin Jinghao. Me, and I, Zhao Lefen. Together. No, there's one person missing. Where's Shuhan? The three of them knelt on the ground before Shuhan woke up and turned around to look for him. The lights from passing vehicles shone on the three of them, but they thought they were spotlights. Shuhan, come quickly, you are the only one missing. Shuhan had no choice but to stand in front of them with his phone. Follow my command and start now, the father recognition meeting. What the hell? It's a sworn brotherhood meeting. You must have drunk too much. Wang Ziheng spoke with a lisp and immediately corrected Shuhan's words, appearing to be very sober. For brothers, become brothers, pick up girls together, sleep in the same bed together. Big Daddy. Second brother. For some unknown reason, he went from being a brother to being the eldest son. Finish the ceremony. Lin Jinghao and Wang Ziheng held Zhao Lefen in the middle and continued walking towards the dormitory. Shuhan followed behind in a servile manner. He checked his phone and saw no messages from the pinned contact. Am I too direct and scare people away? He has never been in a serious relationship and his experience in this area is basically zero. Shuhan sighed. When he looked up, a figure at the bus stop caught his attention. Chapter 9. The boy passing by the kitchen. Tang Xuyin squatted on the side of the road. She was too busy at noon to have time to eat, and in the evening she took the bus for more than an hour. At this moment, she felt dizzy, her stomach was churning, and she was sweating all over. Teacher Tang, are you feeling unwell? Some familiar voices came into my ears, and a figure appeared in front of me. Tang Xuyin looked up and saw Shuhan's handsome face. Shuhan looked at her pale cheek with tenderness in his eyes. I'll take you to the hospital. As he spoke, Shuhan stood on the side of the road and started hailing a taxi. Tang Xuyin's eyes fell on his back and she waved her hand. No need to go to the hospital, I'm just car sick, just take a rest for a while. Shuhan returned to her, lifted her hair, and reached out to test the temperature of her forehead. No fever, but a lot of sweat. His action scared Tang Xuyin. No boy has ever been so close to her, and the key is that this little guy actually dared to touch her forehead. This counts as physical contact. Tang Xuyin has always been disgusted by physical contact, especially from boys, but this time she didn't resist. No, it should be that he moved too fast and I didn't react in time, so he succeeded. Shuhan didn't notice her reaction. Instead, he squatted down and motioned for her to get on his back. Shall I take you back? Tang Xuyin was stunned and stood there, not knowing what to do. Seeing that she didn't respond, Shuhan turned his head and looked at her. What's wrong? Their eyes met, and Tang Xuyin was the first to look away, her face flushed. What to do? Does this little guy know what he is doing? I'll be numb from squatting soon. Shuhan said in a low voice. It seems like I feel pity for him, and it seems like I feel sorry for him. As if possessed by some mysterious force, Tang Xuyin gently lay on his back. A pair of slender, snow-white arms rested on his shoulders. Shuhan felt the soft warmth on his back and stretched his hands behind his back. Avoiding sensitive areas with his hands, he held her long legs and stood up with her on his back. Very light, the subtle scent on the body is very nice. Have you been drinking? The person on my back suddenly spoke. Their voice was gentle and there was no blaming in it. Shuhan nodded. We had a dinner party in the dormitory tonight, so I drank a little. He thought for a moment and continued, I'm sorry it smells bad. Shuhan regretted that he shouldn't have drunk alcohol. She must have disliked the smell of alcohol on him. We are already halfway there, we can't abandon her and go on by ourselves. As he thought about it, Shuhan's pace quickened significantly. Send her back quickly so that the smell of alcohol won't be there. Tang Xuyin felt his stride increase and naturally understood what he was thinking, but she did not say anything to stop him. There are always students and teachers passing by on the road, and if someone sees you being carried on their back by a student, it can easily cause misunderstanding. It's okay for me, but it would be bad for this little guy if he was misunderstood. Tang Xuyin secretly glanced at the little guy and was surprised to find that Shuhan's ears were red. Are you shy? Can you not be shy? When Shuhan squatted down to carry her on his back, two villains were fighting each other in his heart. Are you too brave? What if I get rejected? It will be awkward to meet in the future. Although he appears to be nonchalant on the surface, his heart is already devastated. It took 5 minutes to get from the bus stop to the apartment. Shuhan gently placed Tang Xuyin on the sofa, turned to the door and changed into slippers. Tang Xuyin leaned on the sofa with her eyes half closed. I feel a little weak, but other aspects are much better. Teacher Tang, let me help you change your shoes. Shuhan walked over with slippers in his hand and half knelt in front of Tang Xueying. The person on the sofa pinched the sofa, feeling a little overwhelmed. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Shuhan took it as her consent. He held Tang Xueying's ankle with one hand, gently took off her sneakers, and helped her put on comfortable home slippers. The whole action is smooth and done in one go. Shuhan didn't have time to appreciate the beauty of it and walked away with his changed shoes. He was afraid that if he was a second slower, he would be kicked away by the other party. Before Tang Xueying could react, she felt her feet become relaxed. He raised his head, a blush appeared on his calm face, and he saw the back of a big boy, holding his worn shoes and walking towards the door. Doesn't he dislike it? Tang Xueying touched her face and felt like she had a fever. Little guy, what did you do? Why not refuse? Tang Xueying didn't know whether she was feeling regretful or shy. She felt that she couldn't go on any longer, otherwise. I have to say something. What time does the dormitory close? Shuhan glanced at the time. It was already 9:40 in the evening. Is she driving herself back? Sure enough, it's too big a deal. Shuhan didn't dare to look at the person on the sofa, and replied in a low voice. Oh. I'll be right back. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned and left. Just as he reached the door, he turned back. I'll boil some hot water for you. 10 minutes is enough. It won't take 10 minutes to get back. Without waiting for Tang Xueying to speak, he quickly went into the kitchen. Tang Xueying sat on the sofa with the corners of her lips hooked. Little guy, you're so cute. She raised her cell phone, quietly took a photo, and sent it to Xu Ruolan. The photo shows Shuhan S back in the kitchen. Xu Ruolan? What do you mean? My little brother went there to live. Tang Xueying suddenly regretted sending the photos. How to reply? He said he brought it back by himself. Absolutely not. Tang Xueying thought for a few seconds and replied, just passing by. Xu Ruolan on the opposite side saw these two words and smiled slightly. It should be around 10 o'clock in the evening now. That normal person would pass by someone else's kitchen at 10 o'clock at night. No, her younger brother is a normal person. Finally, Xu Ruolan sent out 5 words, don't bully him. Tang Xueying saw the message and glanced at the kitchen. Shuhan just came out with hot water. It's a little hot, drink it later. Seeing his serious look, Tang Xueying couldn't help but tease him. Then he pointed to the wall clock. Shuhan looked over there. 5 minutes left before the dormitory closes. I'm leaving first. When he finished speaking, he had already rushed out the door. Shuhan ran back to the dormitory in one breath and landed safely at the last second before the dormitory manager closed the door. As an outstanding college student, how can you stay out all night just after school starts? Absolutely not. Shuhan returned to 520 in a bad mood, and the 3 drunkards were already snoring. I quickly washed up and went to bed, but tossed and turned but couldn't fall asleep. As soon as I closed my eyes, teacher Tang's figure appeared before my eyes. I turned my phone on and off again, repeating this process countless times before I fell asleep without realizing it. When he woke up, Lin Jinghao was already packing up. Wake up, where did you go last night? Didn't you come back to sleep? Shuhan pretended that he knew nothing. Seeing this, Lin Jinghao didn't ask any more questions. He was drunk and might not remember anything. Get up, it's time to go to class. A university without skipping classes is incomplete. Zhao Leffen said in confusion. The instructor's class meeting. I love going to class. It makes me happy. Chapter 10 I choose you, okay? Teacher's apartment. Tang Xueying was about to change her shoes and go out. She accidentally discovered a pair of men's shoes that did not belong to her on the shoe rack. Recall how Shuhan ran out last night. No doubt, it's definitely that little guy's. The men's shoes are placed together with the shoes I took off last night. Thinking of the scene last night when Shuhan slipped off his shoes, his heart was beating fast. He likes silly ones. In the classroom. Naturally, no one would miss the class taught by the beautiful instructor. Even if it's just to take a look at the cool goddess on the podium, this class is worth it. You know, it would be great to take the instructor's class every day. Zhao Leffen stared at the podium seriously. No one in the dormitory paid any attention to him. This guy is definitely not awake yet, he is still dreaming. Tang Xueying has only one class a week, which is a class meeting. If this really happens every day, students won't be happy about it. Not daring to skip classes is also a pain for them. Throughout the class, Shu Han's gaze always accidentally collided with Tang Xuan's. The latter will quickly dodge and appear calm on the surface. Before the class ended, Tang Xuan stopped teaching and informed everyone that the school would hold a welcome party and each class would need to perform a program. She hoped that everyone would sign up. The Love Reading free novels app has the fastest update and no ads. The Old Bookworm customer service will help you find the books you want to read. People are not interested in this kind of activity. Finally, with the strong recommendation of squad leader Wang Ziheng, Shu Han was brought in to fill the gap. The reason is that he sang well at the military training party and was very popular. Shu Han glared at Wang Ziheng and repeatedly expressed his refusal, but the latter acted as if he didn't see anything. "Brother, please help me. If you don't go, I will have to perform the stone-breaking performance with my chest." Wang Ziheng pleaded in a low voice. "Whatever conditions you have, just mention them. As long as I can satisfy them, I don't mind warming the bed." Shu Han softened his heart. After all, he was his eldest son, so he could only pamper him. Washing a semester's worth of socks. Wang Ziheng nodded without thinking. "Make a deal." Shu Han gave a wicked smile. "Don't worry, I have another request. Besides." The look of Wang Ziheng gritting his teeth made the other people in the dormitory enjoy it very much. "Explain." "Pick a girl from the class to sing with me." As the two were whispering, Tang Xuan's voice rang out. "Have you discussed it?" Wang Ziheng looked up and instantly betrayed Shu Han, who was his good brother just a second ago. Shu Han said that if he picked a girl from the class to sing with him, he would go. After hearing this, their whole class fell silent. Large-scale social death scene. Shu Han covered his head and lowered his head, wishing he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. "It is my blessing to have such a son." Han Feifei turned her head and looked over with a smug smile on her face. She thought Shu Han's target was her. Did he want to have a chance to be alone with me? As the new school belle, she is still confident about her looks. The last time I added Shu Hanwei's fork, he didn't pass it. Maybe it was just to play hard to get. Boys love this. In her mind, she seemed to have imagined the two of them singing hand in hand on the stage. Tang Xuan's eyelids twitched. Didn't she realize that this little guy was quite cunning? "Okay. I have no objection. I wonder, classmate Shu Han, which girl in the class are you going to let sing on the same stage with you?" All the girls' eyes were focused on him, full of expectation and curiosity. Feeling the fiery gaze, Shu Han gritted his teeth and looked up at the podium. "I want to choose you, Mr. Tang, is that okay?" Looking into each other's eyes, Tang Xuan saw hope, determination and courage in his eyes. He must have mustered up the courage to say this. She would have refused instinctively, but she didn't say anything this time. The other students in the class opened their mouths in surprise. No one expected that Shu Han would choose Tang Xuan. Everyone thought Han Feifei was the most likely candidate. When Shu Han said to choose teacher Tang, Han Feifei's face instantly turned ugly. "Brother Han, it has to be you." "I kneel down and surrender." The three roommates whispered. "If the instructor agrees, I'll take care of breakfast. I'll wash your pants for you." Everyone's eyes fell on Tang Xuan, waiting for her answer. Tang Xuan stood on the podium with an expressionless face. "For the sake of collective honor, it seems I can only agree to you." Shu Han let out a long sigh and nodded slightly. "Thank you very much. I'm worried that I will be too nervous. With the teacher here, I can perform better." Shu Han realized that he had been too reckless just now and almost caused a disaster. Fortunately, Tang Xuan gave him a way out on the grounds of collective honor. The bell rang for the end of get out of class and Tang Xuan quickly escaped. That's right, escape. The little guy's behavior just now was too bold, and he was teased unconsciously. Shu Han looked at his three roommates and said with a smile, "Don't forget what you said." Lin Jinghao quickly put his arm around his shoulders. "How about we talk about this? Washing pants is not really in line with my status. You have no identity, otherwise, you would have washed your socks with them." Wang Ziheng spoke angrily. Shu Han looked at him angrily. "How dare you say that? You sold out your brother right away. I'll drive a train for you when I get back." "Yes. Drive his train." Shu Han's words aroused strong support from Zhao Lefen and Lin Jinghao. "Shu Han, I have something to tell you." Han Feifei suddenly appeared in front of the four people. Seeing that she was looking for Shu Han, the other three tactfully slipped away. "Where is the loyalty you promised?" Shu Han sighed and asked in a low voice, "What's the matter?" Han Feifei looked up at him and suddenly asked, "Why didn't you choose me?" At this time, everyone in the classroom had left, and there was basically no one in the corridor. Shu Han was speechless. The person he didn't want to meet finally showed up. "Why should I choose you?" Han Feifei was speechless for a moment. She couldn't say that she was beautiful and the school belle. With tears in her eyes, she stared at Shu Han as if she had suffered a great injustice. "Why did you reject my friend request?" Shu Han was too familiar with her style. No one was more familiar with it than him, this expression, tone, and movements. "It's exactly the same as what I experienced in my previous life." Shu Han exhaled and said in a cold tone, "Sister, why can't I refuse? Who are you?" He was ruthless and didn't even take into account a girl's self-esteem. There was no way out. The bloody lesson was right in front of him and he didn't want to repeat the same mistake. "I like you," Han Feifei said confidently with red eyes. Shu Han said helplessly, "If I remember correctly, this is the first time we met alone. Your love is too cheap." His words were very hurtful, and would probably be a huge blow to any girl. Tang, who was standing in the corridor, was shocked when she heard this. Heartless. She wanted to find Shu Han in the office, but she accidentally saw this scene. She admitted that she definitely did not eavesdrop on purpose. Chapter 11. Want to sing me to you? Han Feifei looks like a good girl, but she is actually aloof and arrogant at heart. Her strong sense of superiority made her mistakenly believe that the world would give her what she wanted. Only she can refuse others, and others must agree to him unconditionally. This confidence comes from her beautiful appearance and has nothing to do with her family background. Han Feifei's heart was hurt by Shu Han's blunt rejection. She left crying with tears in her eyes. Shu Han took a deep breath to relieve the suppressed emotions in his heart. Thinking of the freshman opening party I will be attending, all the unhappiness disappears in an instant. I can sing on the same stage with Tang. It makes me happy just thinking about it. When the time comes, she will look absolutely the most beautiful in the dress. What are you thinking about? A soft voice floated by. Tang appeared at the door and looked at him with a cold expression. Shu Han heard the voice and blurted out subconsciously, I miss you." Shu Han's voice was not loud, but it reached her ears. Tang deliberately took a step forward, as if she hadn't heard anything. "What did you say?" Shu Han hesitated for a moment, then looked up and met her gaze. "I'm thinking of a song to sing. Have you thought about it?" This time, neither of them looked away, they looked at each other with you and me and me and you. Shu Han kept encouraging himself in his heart. Be bold, be bold. There's a song called, I Want to Sing Me to You. What do you think of it? Tang Xueyin's eyes widened and her face turned a little red. This silly little guy is really brave. Is this the explosive power of a shy boy? Seeing that she didn't respond, Shu Han quickly tried to make amends. If you don't like it, why not change it? Anyway, I'm fine as long as I can go on stage with you and sing anything together. Calabash Brothers is also fine. Let's do as you say. After saying this, Tang Xueyin quickly left. I was teased by this little guy twice in this morning. Did he do it on purpose? Or maybe I'm just too sensitive. Maybe a coincidence. Back in the office, Jiang Yanan was sitting in her seat. Tang, why is your face so red? Do you have a fever? The I Read Free Novels app has the fastest updates, no ads, and the old bookworm customer service will help you find the books you want to read. Jiang Yanan stood up nervously, and her slender fingers climbed up Tang Xueyin's cheek. Tang Xueyin pushed her hand away and began to argue. No, it's too hot. Is it hot? Jiang Yanan looked at her curiously, always feeling that something was wrong but couldn't put his finger on it. The air conditioning is quite strong, but I still feel a little cold. Jiang Yanan no longer bothered about these things. She sat next to Tang Xueyin with a smile and held her arm. What? As soon as she saw this action, Tang Xueyin knew that she had something to say. Most likely he still needs her help. Jiang Yanan didn't shy away and said with a smile. You haven't given me the handsome boy's WeChat yet. Tang Xueyin was stunned. There are quite a few people who care about the little guy, right? 3 minutes later, a new member appeared in the group of Screenwriter Class 2. Jiang Yanan joined the group chat. Tang Xueyin told her that she didn't have the studentess WeChat, but she could add her to the group and let her find it herself. Jiang Yanan happily accepted it. In the evening, preparations for the welcome party are in full swing. All the freshmen have taken their seats in the audience. I heard that the cool goddess Tang will be on stage to sing. That's right, otherwise who would come to such a boring and embarrassing party? No wonder there are more people coming to the party this year than in previous years. Wang Ziheng and his classmates from screenwriting class 2 sat in the front row. His roommates and counselor are on stage together, so he has to be there to support them. He also prepared light boards and glow sticks at his own expense, but they were confiscated when he entered the door. The reason is that it is unsafe. Backstage, Shuhan changed into the suit provided by the school. The costume designer looked her up and down and couldn't help but admire her. What a clothes rack! The suit, which is one size larger, does not look out of place on Shuhan. Instead, it makes him look more elegant and like a domineering boss. He was wearing a straight black suit, a white shirt underneath, and a brown bow tie around his neck, making him look exceptionally energetic. The actors leaving the stage couldn't help but take a second look at him when they passed by him. So handsome! He looks like a celebrity. The door opened and Tang, who had finished putting on makeup, walked out. Shuhan turned his head to look, his eyes unwilling to leave her. He had never seen such a cold and beautiful woman before. She wore a long white gown with lace trim across her chest and a slightly nipped waist, showing off her perfect curves. At this moment, all the words in the world to describe beauty seemed to be appropriate for her. What are you looking at? Shuhan stared blankly, not knowing when Tang had come to his side. She felt aggression in the little guy's eyes, but she didn't feel disgusted. He looks quite handsome in a suit. Teacher Tang, you are so beautiful. Shuhan suddenly spoke, his eyes full of tenderness. He didn't find anything wrong with what he said, it was his truest expression. Hearing such straightforward praise, Tang blushed slightly and turned to face the stage. It's our turn. Shuhan followed behind Tang, helped her hold the hem of her skirt, and slowly walked onto the stage. Their host's voice rang out at the party. Please enjoy the male and female chorus performed by the second screenwriter class. The song is I Want to Sing Me to You. Performers, Shuhan, Tang. As their host finished speaking, thunderous noises rang out from the audience. Under the focus of the lights, the two stood in the center of the stage. The prelude of the song slowly sounded, and everyone in the audience took out their mobile phones and fell silent. Shuhan turned his head and glanced at Tang with a gentle expression. The latter met his gaze with a look full of tenderness, a tenderness that Shuhan had never seen before. The boy spoke first. I want to sing myself to you while you are still young and beautiful. Flowers, bloom as much as you can, decorate your ears, my branches. The journey is long, let's stay together. The two sang affectionately. Tang face was calm, but she felt Shuhan was slowly approaching her. Her heart moved slightly, and she couldn't help but look at him. Those eyes were so gentle that they seemed to melt her into them. When singing the last line, let's be together, Shuhan reached out to hold Tang hand, moved it twice, and then let it go. Others might not be able to see his subtle movements, but Tang saw them all. I laughed in my heart, what a little fool. After finishing the singing, Shuhan let out a long sigh, he was already sweating profusely. He was really nervous, but luckily it turned out well. Applause broke out again from the audience. The students in screenwriting class 2 even stood up and cheered. At the same time, their singing videos were also synchronized to the online platform. Get off the stage. A boy, also wearing a performance costume, stood at the actor's exit. Seeing Tang appear, the boy quickly stepped forward to support her. Senior, you sang so well, it was like the sound of nature. Tang gently dodged the boy's outstretched hand and leaned towards Shuhan. The boys didn't give up. Senior, it's inconvenient for you to wear high heels, let me help you walk. Chapter 12 I'm not a bad person. The boy's name is Cherishes, he is a senior student and has been successfully admitted to graduate school. It is said that he has been a loyal pursuer of Tang since his freshman year. Just as Cherishes was about to put his hand on Tang arm, she pushed it away. She has always been resistant to physical contact with others, especially boys. In order to avoid him, Tang slipped and a cracking sound was heard, accompanied by a low groan of pain. I sprained my ankle. Shuhan hugged her slender waist and pulled her into his arms to prevent her from falling to the ground. Tang whole body softened, and a big hand fell on her waist, making her feel solid and safe, leaving her no reason to refuse. There is no time to resist. Cherishes was shocked and rushed forward to help. But she was pushed away by the boy next to her. Shuhan half knelt, held her long legs with his left hand, and hugged her back with his right hand, then picked her up in a standard princess hug and held Tang Shuing in his arms. Their boyfriend is super strong. I'll take you to the hospital. His voice was urgent and his face was full of worry. Xiao Song followed behind and caught up. Senior, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I'll take you to the hospital. Shu Han suddenly stopped and looked at him with cold eyes, completely different from the gentle one just now. You'd better stay away from her, and don't force me to slap you in the face. His tone was so cold and domineering that Xiao Song didn't dare to say another word. Tang Shuing in his arms felt a chill she had never felt before. The little guy is quite domineering, like a kid guarding his food. Tang Shuing shyly lowered her head and let him hold her, occasionally glancing at his profile without saying a word. Along the way, he attracted the attention of many students. Who wouldn't be envious of someone holding such a beautiful girl? When they arrived at the infirmary, the doctor treated Tang Shuing's sprain and reminded her not to wear high heels for the time being. Shu Han asked the doctor several times. Are you sure everything is okay? What should I pay attention to? Can it get wet? The doctor handed him the medicine helplessly and told him that he could leave. Only then did he carry Tang Shuing back to the apartment. Before he knew it, he seemed to be coming to this apartment more and more often. Without the awkwardness I felt at the beginning, I felt much more familiar with it. Shu Han skillfully took the slippers and half squatted down. Tang Shuing's white, tender and delicate feet were exposed in front of him. She just came back with high heels, and now she is only wearing a pair of transparent socks on her feet. Compared with last time, Shu Han could clearly see the shape of her feet. Tang Shuing was a little at a loss. She looked down at him and moved her uninjured right foot. I'll do it myself. Shu Han acted as if he didn't hear it. He held her ankle with his left hand and slowly lifted it up, then put the slippers on her feet. Their movements are very gentle, like touching a precious work of art. Tang Shuing's breathing was a little heavy. She had never observed a boy so carefully. Creak. The door suddenly opened, and a weak girl strode in. Tang, I heard. Jiang Yanan was halfway through her words when she saw the scene in the room and froze in place. What's going on? Tang, why are there boys here? What is he doing? Half squatting at Tang's feet, intending to do something bad. Who are you? Let go of Tang's feet. Jiang Yanan took out her cell phone and pretended to call the police. I called the police. I'm telling you, I know everyone here, so don't even think about doing anything bad. Jiang Yanan looked at the boy on the ground warily, raised the bag in her hand and was about to throw it at him. Shu Han stood up immediately, his face turned red, as if he was caught having an affair. I'm not a bad person. He wanted to explain, but he became nervous and his mouth became clumsy. Tang Shuing raised her eyes and saw his embarrassed look. She blinked her beautiful eyes and couldn't help but raise the corners of her lips. Little guy, aren't you very brave? It's all fake. She turned her head to look at Jiang Yanan and explained. This is a student from our class. I sprained my ankle and he brought me back. Jiang Yanan then put down their thing in his hand, sat down on the sofa, patted his chest and gasped. I was so scared, I thought it was a pervert. Huh? Her eyes fell on the boy, curious as if she had discovered a treasure. Aren't you the handsome boy who sang? Tang Shuing lowered her head, as if she had done something wrong, and stopped looking at Jiang Yanan. Shu Han was a little shy and asked confusedly. Do you know me? I don't know you, but I saw your singing video on the confession wall and added you as a friend, but you didn't seem to agree. Speaking of the latter part, Jiang Yanan lowered her voice and suddenly looked at Tang Shuing again, with a fierce and aggressive look. Didn't you say you didn't know him? Why did I appear in your house? Don't tell me it was a coincidence. I'm not a 3-year-old child. Tang Shuing felt the sharp gaze, her face remained calm, and she introduced herself seriously. My best friend, Jiang Yanan. A student in my class, Shu Han. Oh, and his also senior sister Shu's younger brother. When introducing Shu Han, the last sentence was added with emphasis. What this means is that senior sister Shu also rents here, so it's normal for her brother to come over. Hearing that it was Tang Shuing's best friend, Shu Han greeted her politely. I love reading. Free novels app has the fastest updates, no ads, and the old bookworm customer service will help you find the books you want to read. Senior Jiang, hello, you want to add me as a friend, right? I'll add you. I'll scan you. It is very important to establish a good relationship with the goddess best friends. I learned all this from watching TV dramas. Tang Shuing saw the two of them fighting passionately, and an indescribable feeling weighed on her heart. Feeling jealous? How is that possible? She thought about it and spoke to Shu Han in a teacher's tone. You go back first. Thank you. Shu Han was stunned, the tone seemed not right. That. She just takes care of me. Tang Xueying seemed to know what Shu Han was going to say and interrupted him directly. Of course she is my good friend Jiang Yanan. Goodbye, junior brother, Microlink. Jiang Yanan enthusiastically sent Shu Han to the door. Wait until he gets on the elevator before closing the door. I kept muttering to myself, my little brother is so gentle. Shu Han returned to the dormitory. Lin Jinghao and Zhao Lefen were playing games. As the class monitor, Wang Ziheng was helping to deal with matters related to the party and had not returned yet. Xiao Han, come quickly. Let's play together. Seeing him come back, Zhao Lefen called him and wanted to recruit him into the team. Playing games is Shu Han's weakness. He is just a newbie anyway, so he simply does T-play. If you are not afraid of being reported, I can give up my account to play with you. Forget it then. Knowing his weaknesses, as long as he doesn't take the initiative, others won't force him. Brother, have you seen the confession wall? You've been flooded with messages tonight. But the most beautiful one is our cool instructor. Zhao Lefen stared at the game screen and muttered to himself. You've made all the boys in the school envious. I'm afraid it will only make people hate you more. Shu Han smiled without saying anything. He skillfully turned on the computer, logged into his own forum, and continued writing his own little script. The other side. Tang Xueying lay quietly on the bed, looking at the ceiling, recalling the scenes that happened during the day. Chapter 13. Good morning, Mr. Tang. Shu Han, who had no classes in the morning, came to the teacher's apartment carrying a variety of breakfasts. Not knowing what Tang Xueying liked to eat, he brought some of everything. When he stood at the door, he didn't have the courage to knock. After hesitating for a long time and taking a deep breath, he knocked on the door. After knocking 3 times politely, he waited quietly. Tang Xueying has an injury on his foot, so he definitely won't come to open the door so quickly, and he also has enough time to prepare himself mentally. He didn't know what he was preparing for, he just felt inexplicably nervous. Maybe it was because he had been afraid of teachers since he was a child. He waited for about a minute, and the door slowly opened from the inside. Tang Xueying appeared in a blue silk pajamas, with her long black hair naturally draped over her shoulders. In Shu Han's opinion, her bare-faced appearance is stunning enough. Even without makeup, she is still mouth-watering. Morning, Teacher Tang. Shu Han greeted with a smile, trying not to look nervous. I brought you breakfast, do you want to try it? As he said that, he shook the bag in his hand. Tang Xueying's eyes fell on the bags in his hands, for big bags. Are you sure you're not here to feed the pigs? People who don't know me think how much I can eat? Tang Xueying looked at the little fool in front of her, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Are you going to stand at the door all the time? My foot is so tired. Shu Han paused, put all the bags in his right hand, and stepped into the room. Holding her arm with his left hand, he hooked the door with his foot and brought her back to the sofa. What do you want to eat? Milk, bread, buns. Shu Han repeated the breakfast he brought as if he was reading out the names of the dishes. Tang Xueying smiled faintly, and seeing his serious look, she suddenly wanted to tease him. Are you going to open a breakfast shop? Shu Han shook his head and whispered, I don't know, what do you like to eat? Just a little more variety. His silly look made Tang Xueying unable to bear teasing him anymore. I'm not picky about food, anything is fine. But thank you for bringing me breakfast, I'll pass it on to you later. Shu Han wanted to refuse, but in the end, he didn't say it out loud. Tang Xueying has her own principles. As a teacher, how can she take advantage of her students? If I don't want it, it will make her unhappy. Is your injury better? It's not a big deal, come eat with us. Tang Xueying pushed the buns and eggs in front of Shu Han and motioned him to sit down. He had actually already eaten it, but it was also nice to be able to eat it with Teacher Tang. Shu Han sat opposite Tang Xueying, stealing glances at her from time to time. He didn't know how the breakfast tasted, but he felt a little full. Shu Han put the remaining things into the refrigerator and boiled some hot water and placed it in front of Tang Xueying. Left the apartment early before Jiang Yanan came. Tang Xueying picked up the water cup on the table, held it in her palm, her eyes a little dazed. The little guy seemed very nervous in front of her, but sometimes he was very brave. Why is this happening? Was I too harsh on him, or? She herself didn't realize that, unknowingly, Shuhan appeared in her mind more and more often. Just as I was lost in thought, Jiang Yanin opened the door and walked in. I brought some fruit, I'll wash it for you to eat. She walked straight into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and saw an entire layer filled with various breakfasts. Tang, did you cut over the breakfast stand? Or is it having a big sale? The iRead free novels app has the fastest updates, no ads, and the old bookworm customer service will help you find the books you want to read. With a puzzled look on her face, Jiang Yanin washed the fruit and sat next to Tang Shiying. Take out a fresh grape and feed it into her mouth with your own hands. Has the junior brother been here? That junior? Humph. If you don't tell me, I'll ask myself. Jiang Yanin angrily took out her cell phone and sent a message to Shuhan. Shuhan walked downstairs to the dormitory building and found Wang Ziheng talking and laughing with a girl. He remembered that the girl was also a student in the second screenwriting class and her name was Lu Shanqing. When the two saw Shuhan, they greeted him enthusiastically. Xiaohan, are you going back to the dormitory? Let's go together. Wang Ziheng took 2 quick steps, put his arm around Shuhan's shoulders and walked into the dormitory building. Squad leader, is there something wrong with you? Shuhan looked at Wang Ziheng with a smile on his face, full of satisfaction, like an old father who is optimistic about his eldest son. Wang Ziheng tried hard to suppress the smile on his lips and pretended to be calm. No problem, we just met on the road, just chatting. He would never tell Shuhan that he deliberately went to wait for someone downstairs of the teaching building in order to create a chance encounter. Wang Ziheng thought about it. After all, he was his brother. It would be bad to hide it from him. Besides, telling him about it could help him come up with ideas. He lowered his voice and asked, do you think there's a chance? You were saying you encountered it just a second ago, and now you're asking for my opinion. You're worthy of it. Shuhan looked at his serious expression and thought for a moment. You have to take control of your own happiness. That makes sense. I don't know if Wang Ziheng understood what I said, but he reacted quite quickly. Shuhan returned to the dormitory and found that Lin Jinghao was looking at him with a strange look and didn't say anything, which made him feel uncomfortable. Boss, what are you looking at me like that? I have no desire for you. Lin Jinghao showed an evil smile. Where have you been so early in the morning, kid? Have breakfast. Bullshit, I saw you carrying for big bags and leaving the school. Lin Jinghao shook his head in disappointment. I almost lost my voice from shouting, and you didn't even look back at me. Is there? Maybe the wind was too loud and blew away your heavenly music. Shuhan did hear his voice when he was at the door, and he deliberately quickened his pace because he was afraid that he couldn't explain it clearly. You kid, are you cheating on someone outside? Cheating someone? Is it that exciting? Zhao Lefen, who was sleeping, suddenly got up, and the fire of gossip in his eyes began to burn. Senior sister or senior, widow or sister-in-law. The other 3 looked at this funny guy as if he were a fool. Shuhan took the opportunity to turn on the computer, put on headphones, and block Lin Jinghao's questioning. The phone screen flickered, he clicked it and took a look. It was a message from Jiang Yanin. Junior, did you come to Tantan's place this morning? Shuhan stared at the screen for a long time and decisively chose to pretend he didn't see it. I definitely can't say I've been there, but I'm not good at lying. Jiang Yanin in the apartment didn't wait for Shuhan's reply. She put her phone aside and started watching TV series out of boredom. Just when she was feeling aroused by the guy she liked, the phone suddenly rang with a message. When I opened it, I saw that it was not from my junior brother, but from Chia Song. Jiang Yanin handed the phone to Tang Shiying. Chia Song said that he wanted to apologize to you in person and come to see you. Do you want me to tell him the address? Tang Shiying was too lazy to watch and directly refused. It's not that she holds a grudge, but Chia Song is too hypocritical. He gives people the impression of being a gentleman in front of others, but in fact, he is good at using conspiracies and tricks in secret. That's how he got the place in graduate school. Chapter 14 Candid Whores or Cotton Candy. After class, Shuhan did not return to the dormitory, but took a taxi away at the school gate. No one knows what he did. Until he appeared in room 1101 of the teacher's apartment, pushing a wheelchair. He came here only after he was sure that Jiang Yanin was not there. Tang Shiying looked down at the wheelchair, then raised her eyes to look at Shuhan, who had a serious expression on his face. Little guy, do you have to be so exaggerated? Student Shu, I don't think you're at the stage where you need a wheelchair yet. My injury will heal in 2 days. It's such a waste. Shuhan followed her gaze and saw that the swelling on his feet had indeed subsided a lot, but he still didn't dare to use force. Tang Xueying's face turned slightly red. He was looking at her feet again. The previous two contacts were still vivid in her mind. Although my feet are pretty nice, I feel a little uncomfortable being looked at like this by a boy. Shuhan unfolded the wheelchair and motioned for her to sit down. This is for rent, you can just return it when the time comes. After hearing what he said, Tang Xueying no longer insisted and sat obediently in the wheelchair. Without waiting, it feels quite comfortable, much better than hopping on one foot. Jiang Yanin usually takes care of herself here, but she also has to go to class. It is really inconvenient for her to move around when she is the only one in the room. The little one can't be with him all the time. If Shuhan heard this idea, he would be extremely happy. He would wish to stay by Tang Xueying's side all the time. I'll push you downstairs for a walk later. It must be boring to stay at home all the time. Shuhan pushed Tang Xueying to sit at the dining table and placed the bone soup he brought on the table. He took a small bowl and a spoon from the kitchen and poured a large bowl. It's just right to drink now, it's not too hot. Shuhan tested the temperature with his hand and placed it in front of Tang Xueying. Tang Xueying didn't move, just looked at him, not knowing what she was thinking. Shuhan tilted his head. Is it too greasy? Don't you like drinking it? I wanted to buy some and cook it, but I can't cook. I'll go. No, I like drinking. Tang Xueying interrupted him and smiled faintly. Her cold face looked very gentle. It's too much. I can't finish it. Let's drink it together. Shuhan didn't hesitate to go to the kitchen to get tableware, sat opposite Tang Xueying, and started eating. He carefully tore the meat off the big bone with chopsticks, put it in the bowl next to him, and pushed it to the other side. Tang Xueying observed his movements out of the corner of her eye. He looks very brave, but becomes cautious when approaching me. However, he seems serious, just a little silly. The two of them sat at the same dining table and drank the bone soup face to face. Shuhan also decided in his heart that he wanted to learn how to cook. He thought the boys who could cook on TV were quite likable. Night is falling. Tang Xueying let Shuhan push her and walked to the small park downstairs. After she sprained her ankle, she stayed at home for a while and wanted to get some fresh air. The evening breeze blew by, ruffling her hair, and a slender finger ruffled her messy hair. Little guy, you are getting more and more courageous, it's time to teach you a lesson. Shuhan was enjoying the gentle evening breeze, a faint fragrance entering his nostrils. It was the scent of Tang Xueying shampoo, so nice. Do you know how old I am? The person in the wheelchair suddenly asked. Shuhan was stunned. You mean age? Or what? I really don't know if this little guy is really stupid or just pretending to be stupid. 18 years old. Shuhan added another explanation, aren't girls always 18 years old? Tang Xueying smiled secretly in her heart, the little guy has a very sweet mouth. It seems that you are very good at making girls happy. I won't. Shuhan shook his head and looked down, but he couldn't see Tang Xueying's expression. My second sister told me this. She said I was too dumb with my mouth. I should say this when I see a pretty girl. The corners of Tang Xueying's lips curled up. As expected, he was naive. Senior sister Shu really understood her younger brother. You've said that to a lot of girls. Without. Why? There are so many pretty girls in the class. No one is as pretty as you. As soon as Shuhan finished speaking, Tang Xueying blushed instantly. What girl doesn't he like to be praised by the opposite sex? The little guy hit the ball straight without any warning, who can stand it? In the park, a boy is pushing a girl in a wheelchair, walking slowly. They look like a couple who stay together forever. Occasionally, when they meet passers-by, they will look at them more. It's a very warm and romantic circle. In this fast-paced era, Shuhan prefers this kind of slow-paced relationship. It takes a long way for two people to go from knowing each other to knowing each other. Some people fall in love at first sight, while others are attracted by beauty. He prefers long-term companionship. Love is impulsive, but good love lasts forever. In the previous life, Shuhan and Tang Xueying had basically no intersection, and he knew very little about her, so take it slow, there will be better results. When the two were ready to go back, I met an uncle at the exit of the park. He was selling candied haws and cotton candy. The shouting attracted Shuhan's attention. Teacher Tang, do you want to eat candied haws or cotton candy? In his impression, girls should all like this kind of food. Tang Xueying took a look and said nothing. She was actually struggling, wanting to eat. But I'm obviously a teacher, and these are things that only little girls like. Besides, her students were right beside her, so she still wanted to maintain some composure. Before she could decide, Shuhan had already walked up to the uncle. Candied haws and marshmallows, the same thing. I want a big marshmallow. Okay. The uncle was also very enthusiastic when he saw someone coming to take care of his business. He picked out the biggest marshmallow, put the candied haws into the bag, and handed it to Shuhan. Here you go. Come back after you've finished eating. Shuhan said thank you, walked back to Tang, and placed one in each hand in front of her. Only children make choices, we all want them. Tang blinked her eyes, her long eyelashes trembling slightly, like a spoiled child. It feels like being coaxed. In the outside world's impression, she seems to be cold towards everyone, which makes people think that she is difficult to get along with. There are many boys who like her, but she rejects most of them, so few people approach her anymore. Just like that, with a marshmallow in her left hand and a candied haws in her right hand, she was pushed back to the apartment by Shuhan. When they opened the door, their eyes met, or should be 6 eyes met. Jiang Yanan was here too. Looking at Tang, who was sitting in a wheelchair holding candied haws and marshmallows, he looked up and stared at Shuhan. Finally her eyes fell on the candied haws. Tang, did you buy this specifically for me? Yes. I knew you were coming, so I prepared this for you in advance. Tang reluctantly gave away the candied haws in her hand. He turned to look at Shuhan again. You go back first. I was abandoned again. Chapter 15. It's not a story, it's an accident. When Jiang Yanan saw Shuhan was about to leave, she walked to the door and grabbed his arm. Little brother, tomorrow is Saturday, how about I treat you to a meal? I know a new hot pot restaurant that tastes great. Shuhan felt that the two were too close, so he subconsciously took a half step back and turned his head to look at Tang. She was pushing her wheelchair into the living room, as if she heard nothing. Shuhan scratched his head awkwardly, and a flash of inspiration suddenly appeared in his mind. Senior Jiang, how about I bring the ingredients tomorrow and have hot pot at Teacher Tang's apartment? Good idea. Jiang Yanan hugged Shuhan's arms with both hands and rocked them back and forth. He felt a soft feeling and he didn't dare to look down. Then I'll go shopping with you tomorrow. It's a happy decision. As she said that, she turned to look at Tang. Tang, you have no objection, right? Tang didn't say anything, indicating her agreement. The next day, it was past 9 o'clock. Shuhan received a voice call from Jiang Yanan. I'm downstairs in your dormitory, come down quickly. Jiang Yanan rode her red electric scooter and took Shuhan straight to the nearby supermarket. The two of them walked around for an hour and a half. Shuhan wanted to ask Tang what she liked to eat, and Jiang Yanan told him. Tang likes everything she likes to eat. The two of them bought all kinds of ingredients before returning to the apartment. Tang foot injury made it inconvenient for her to sit on the sofa, looking at the script in her hand seriously. Shuhan and Jiang Yanan are washing ingredients in the kitchen. For a family hot pot, there is no need to arrange the dishes. Just wash the vegetables and you can serve them. Jiang Yanan looked at the table full of food and couldn't wait. Little brother, do you want me to help you make the sauce? I can do it myself. The three of them sat down, and the steaming hot pot was boiling on the table. In a short while, the beef and mutton in Shuhan's bowl piled up. Little brother, eat more. Jiang Yanan picked up the freshly cooked meat slices from the pot and put them back into his bowl. Tang, who didn't get any meat, glared at her best friend. It's like saying, I value women over friendship. Jiang Yanan pretended not to see it and stared at Shuhan's profile with a smile. Little brother, are you 19 years old? Shuhan stuffed a piece of meat into his mouth and nodded obediently. So do you like the senior or the junior? Hearing this, Tang, who was picking up food, was stunned for a moment. Her face remained calm, but she had pricked up her ears. Shuhan swallowed the food in his mouth and answered in a low voice. I like senpai. After saying that, he looked up at Tang, but the latter's expression did not change at all. Jiang Yanan smiled happily and immediately added some meat to his bowl. So do you like gentle or cold people? Perhaps it was because of the hot pot, Shuhan's face turned red all the way to his ears. He didn't know how to answer. If she directly said that she liked cool and aloof guys, Jiang Yanan would definitely think of Tang. But she is a teacher now and she is a student. Would a student pursue a teacher? He was very happy to do so, but what about her? She would definitely have to pay attention to the impact. Seeing Shuhan didn't say anything, Jiang Yanan continued, do you still like them all? Tang picked up the vegetables and put them into Jiang Yanan's bowl. Eat it quickly. It will get cold if you don't eat it now. R. Oh. Jiang Yanin just remembered to continue eating. She lowered her head to look at the vegetables in the bowl and glared at Tang Shiying. You feed the rabbits, I want to eat meat. When did you become a bad person? With his attention diverted, Shuhan breathed a sigh of relief, feeling that he had escaped a disaster. Was she just trying to help herself out? Not caring about so much, Shuhan just focused on eating. For a foodie, chasing goddesses is important, but eating is equally indispensable. Tang Shiying saw him finish the meat in the bowl, and then added a bowl of cooked vegetables. The corners of her mouth raised, revealing a curious look. The little guy doesn't he look fat, but he has a big appetite. Watching him eat, Tang Shiying was a little absent-minded, and an impulse surged in her heart. What are you doing there? Jiang Yanin stretched out his hand and waved it in front of her eyes, and she looked away. He quickly explained. I think my junior is almost done eating, give him some more. Immediately afterwards, a bowl full of cooked vegetables and meat slices appeared in front of Shuhan. When he looked up and saw that it was the dish that Tang Shiying had added for him, Shuhan, who was almost unable to finish his meal, still ate it happily. This was added by teacher Tang personally. That's not right. Why does this feel like being a bootlicker? After the hot pot meal, they still had a lot of ingredients left, so they put them all in the refrigerator. While packing up, Jiang Yanin took a photo with Shuhan and Tang Shiying. The name is, to commemorate the first hot pot meal with my junior brother. She also posted the photos and text on our moments. Of course, the ones who can see it are her closest friends. Go give me a thumbs up. Jiang Yanin was holding her cell phone and smiling happily. Unlike Tang Shiying, she is a girl who shows her emotions on her face and has a very good personality. Not long after she finished packing, she received a call and left. Before leaving, he asked Shuhan to take care of Tang Shiying. Shuhan naturally accepted it with pleasure. This was a request from others, so he had to do his best. Tang Shiying sat on the sofa, looking at the photos in Jiang Yanin's circle of friends, and saved them silently. Just when I was about to put down my phone, I received a message reminder. It was a photo sent by Xu Ruolan, they're one of 3 of them. Xu Ruolan, my little brother actually ate with you guys. Did you bully him? Tang Shiying looked at the message, glanced at Shuhan who was washing fruit in the kitchen, and replied calmly. Why isn't he the one bullying me? It was obviously that little guy, he was the first to start. Xu Ruolan, will he bully you? What happened between you two? Story? Looking at these 2 words, Tang Shiying's face felt hot. It seemed like nothing happened, but... Tang Shiying thought for a moment and replied, it could also be an accident. This time, Xu Ruolan did not reply immediately. Shuhan came out with the fruits in his hand. Looking at the cut fruits, Tang Shiying's eyes lit up. No wonder it took so long to wash, it turns out he was cutting fruit, the little guy was really attentive. She should be able to imagine how clumsy Shuhan was in cutting the fruit. It seemed like he had never done such a thing before. Sit down. Tang Shiying patted the seat next to her, motioning him to come over and sit down, then she picked up the script on the table and handed it to him. Take a look. Shuhan took the script. He studied this major and he could probably understand the contents. Tang Shiying didn't disturb him. She picked up the fruit and ate it herself, waiting silently. After 3 or 4 minutes, when he finished reading the first article, he slowly spoke. What do you think? Shuhan looked focused, his eyes slightly narrowed, completely different from his state in real life. At this moment, he was thinking seriously. It would be better if the heroine's emotional line was a little more delicate. Chapter 16, If you keep talking nonsense, I will beat you up. Tang Shiying listened quietly to Shuhan's story. He was really careful. Unexpectedly, the little guy was quite handsome when he was serious. Shuhan finished speaking his thoughts in one breath, turned his head, and happened to meet Tang Shiying's bright eyes. After looking at each other for 2 seconds, Tang Shiying's pretty face turned slightly red and she was the first to look away. Shuhan didn't seem to notice her change. He put down the script in his hand and spoke in a low voice. You wrote this? Tang Shiying shook her head. It's a schoolmate, let me help her take a look. But you're right, some places are even more exciting than I thought. Tang Shiying was generous with her praise, which made Shuhan very happy. Boys need compliments too. The phone on the table vibrated, and Tang Shiying clicked on the message from Xu Ruolan. My little brother has a good personality and is thoughtful, but he lacks a sense of security. This is related to his upbringing. Although we have tried our best to help him, some things are difficult to change overnight, as you know. The fact that he can come to your house to have dinner with you shows that he trusts you very much. He never goes to other people's houses to eat, so I was a little shocked to see him having dinner with you and Yanan at home. Please take good care of him for me. He should like girls like you. She read the message, digested it for a while, then turned to look at the boy walking towards the kitchen. It turned out that he did muster up the courage when he approached her. Thinking of how cautious he was, I suddenly felt a little sorry for him. For Shu Han, this was a pleasant weekend. He went to the apartment for 2 days. Of course, Jiang Yanan was there most of the time. After a few days of rest, Tang Xian's feet have basically recovered and she can walk normally. In order to welcome the National Day, the school specially prepared a basketball game. Shu Han was not very interested in this kind of game, even though he was a pretty good player. However, Wang Ziheng, a sports student and class monitor, was excited. He plays basketball well and even played for the school in high school. He is an indispensable main force in this game. Xiao Han, do you want to go for a morning run too? Wang Ziheng changed into sports gear and looked up to see Shu Han wearing running shoes. He didn't have the habit of morning jogging before, but after his rebirth, he set goals for himself, and morning jogging was one of them. Shu Han and Wang Ziheng went downstairs together and walked towards the playground. There are still many people who get up early to exercise. As soon as they walked into the playground, a familiar figure came over and greeted Wang Ziheng. Lu Shanqing is the girl who Shu Han met walking with Wang Ziheng last time. She tied her hair into a ponytail and wore a slim sports suit, which perfectly outlined her figure, with a curvy figure, and attracted the attention of other boys who were jogging in the morning. Seeing that the squad leader had a companion, Shu Han didn't want to be a light bulb, so he distanced himself from the two of them and ran slowly by himself. Not far behind him, there were 3 boys in black sportswear. When they saw Shu Han, they slowed down. Brother Qiao, look at that kid in front, is he the one who wanted to slap you last time? The free novel app of Love Reading has the fastest updates and no ads. The old bookworm customer service will help you find the books you want to read. The man in the middle looked at the figure in front of him and instantly became angry. This figure really left a deep impression on him, how could he forget it? That's him. I've been looking for him for so long, but I didn't expect to meet him here. Jiao Song waved his hand, signaling his companions to go with him. We have to give this kid some eye drops. The 3 of them quickened their pace and ran behind Shu Han, with no intention of slowing down or dodging. The 3 of them walked side by side and suddenly bumped into Shu Han. Shu Han was knocked to the ground by the sudden force from behind. Before he could speak, the boy next to Jiao Song spoke first. Are you blind? Haven't you heard that a good dog doesn't block the road? The 3 of them just stood there, watching Shu Han fall to the ground, with no intention of lending a hand to help. The commotion here quickly attracted everyone's attention. The corner of Shu Han's mouth twitched, and when he looked up and saw Jiao Song pinching his waist, he understood everything. This is because of what happened at the last welcome party, and I'm here to take revenge. You are the ones who bumped into me, so if anyone is going to go blind, it's you who are going to go blind. He has a gentle personality, but that doesn't mean he is a soft persimmon. If others deliberately make trouble for him, he will never show mercy. Shu Han ignored the scratches on his arms and knees, standing in front of the 3 men, not losing in momentum at all. What? Are you still not convinced, kid? Jiao Song put his finger on Shu Han's chest and whispered in his ear, mockingly. I did it on purpose. What can you do to me? Aren't you having an affair with Tang Xian? If you have the guts, you can. Bang! Before Jiao Song could finish his words, a fist as big as a sandbag hit him in the face, leaving him no time to react. How dare you hit me? What's there to be afraid of? If you keep talking nonsense, I'll beat you so hard that you won't even recognize your own mother. Shu Han was really angry and said that he didn't care about anything, but he would never allow anyone to slander Tang Xian. What are you standing there for? Beat him up. Jiao Song growled, grabbed Shu Han and punched him in the face. The 2 companions rushed forward. Shu Han knew that they had more people and he was not at an advantage, so he simply threw Jiao Song to the ground, pinned him under him, and beat him with all his strength. The 2 people behind him punched him, but he ignored them. The noise was heard and all the students who were jogging in the morning gathered here. Wang Ziheng, who was behind the crowd, saw that it was Shu Han who was fighting, and he pushed the crowd aside like crazy and rushed in. Fuck you, you touched my brother. He was a sports student, with muscles all over his body. He threw Jiao Song's 2 companions out with 1 hand each. The 2 of them squatted on the ground, and neither of them knew how they flew over. Shu Han pinned down Che Song and beat him so hard that he curled up on the ground, holding his head and struggling wildly. The arrogance just now has long disappeared into the sky. At this time, a girl also came in and grabbed Shu Han. Stop fighting. If something goes wrong, it will be hard to handle. The person who came was his fellow villager, Yi Xiaowen. She also came for a morning run. Shu Han stood up in time, turned over Che Song who was pressed under him, looked at his bruised face and glared at him. Wang Ziheng stood beside him, looking him up and down. Are you okay? Why is it still bleeding? Shu Han glanced at the wound and shook his head slowly. It's okay. It's just the blood from the fall. It's all healed now. Yi Xiaowen looked at his wound and walked forward and said with concern, let's go to the infirmary. Man, this injury is nothing. Shu Han glanced at Che Song and the other two, and seeing that Che Song looked bruised and swollen, he didn't bother to pay attention to him, so he turned around and squeezed out of the crowd. You fell down just now. Did they hit you on purpose? Wang Ziheng asked indignantly. He just saw someone fall down, but he didn't expect it was Shu Han, otherwise, he would not let his brother be bullied. Shu Han nodded, looking calm and composed. Go back and change your clothes, it's time for class. Only then did he remember that there seemed to be a class meeting in the first period. Chapter 17 The Distance of a Cotton Swab. Shu Han went back to the dormitory and put on his baseball cap before going to the classroom for class. The four people in the dormitory sat in the corner. Zhao Lefen was still blaming Wang Ziheng for not taking good care of Shu Han and getting beaten when he went out. Calling for revenge. I felt ashamed because my son was beaten. The news of the fight on the playground soon spread among the students, but they didn't know who was fighting. As the bell rang, Tang appeared in the classroom with a meeting notebook. She glanced around the classroom and finally her eyes fell on the classmate wearing a baseball cap in the corner. As soon as she entered the school gate, she heard about a fight on the playground. In the office, Jiang Yanin told her that Che Song was beaten. This immediately made her think of Shu Han. Shu Han would not initiate a fight, but he knew Che Song's temper. He must be looking for trouble because of the welcome party. During the entire class, Shu Han did not even look up at the podium. He was afraid that Tang Xuyin would see his face being hit. Tang Xuyin was also a little absent-minded, and repeated several things twice. Looking at Shu Han's expression, she knew that the little guy was also beaten. Finally the get out of class is over. Tang Xuyin directly called Shu Han's name. Shu Han, come to my office. When Shu Han heard this, he sighed softly, it seems I can't escape it. Lin Jinghao patted his shoulder, we'll wait for you at the door. Wang Ziheng and Zhao Lefen also nodded. They were afraid that Che Song would cause trouble again. This is the relationship between dormitory brothers. They treat each other as fathers in normal times, and become brothers for life at critical moments. Before Shu Han could go out, there was a commotion in the corridor and more than a dozen students gathered at the door of screenwriting class 2. The leader was Che Song, who was also wearing a baseball cap. Seeing this, all the boys in Shu Han's class surrounded him. What are you doing? Looking for trouble? Zhao Lefen just sat back in his seat. After hearing Wang Ziheng say that it was the guy wearing the hat who hit Shu Han, he stepped on the table and jumped out. He grabbed Che Song by the collar and roared. You're the one who beat up my brother, right? What's the point of bringing so many people here? Do you want to fight? Zhao Lefen has a strong sense of chivalry and is loyal to his friends. He always protects Shu Han behind him. Wang Ziheng squeezed to the front, pointed at Che Song's nose and cursed, you three beat up my brother, suffered a loss, and you still have the nerve to come and settle the score. After these words were spoken, all the friends who came with Che Song felt ashamed. They only knew that Che Song was beaten, but they didn't expect that he lost even though he was outnumbered. How embarrassing. Seeing this, many people sneaked away and didn't want to play with him anymore. Che Song was so angry that he wanted to get back at his enemies, but he got slapped in the face again. Let that kid come out. Now that you're out, what can you do? Shu Han walked forward as he spoke, but Lin Jinghao grabbed his arm and stopped him from moving forward. Don't be impulsive. Che Song, what are you doing? Tang Xuyin's cold voice rang out in the corridor, and the messy corridor suddenly fell silent. Her cold aura made people dare not look directly at her. When she took a step forward, the people around her quickly stepped back. Her low-pressure temperament made people stay away. It was not until now that Shu Han realized that the title of cold and beautiful goddess was not given for nothing. He exudes a chill all over his body and is intimidating without even being angry. Tang Shuyin walked up to Che Song and looked at him coldly, causing him to take a step back. Did he provoke you first, or did you deliberately pick a fight? Her voice was low, but it was unquestionable. Che Song looked up at Tang Shuyin and felt uneasy. He was indeed in the wrong in this matter, but with so many people watching, he also had to save face. I was beaten by him. Che Song pointed at the wound on his face. His whole face was swollen like a pig's head. The other students who saw this scene almost laughed out loud. They usually don't laugh unless they can't hold it back. Then you three, did you beat him up? I saw it with my own eyes. Wang Ziheng glared at him, looking like he wanted to beat him up again. I definitely won T lose. Che Song knew he was in the wrong, and most of the classmates who came with him had left, so he left in shame after saying some harsh words. If you have the guts, let's meet at the basketball game and solve the problem the manly way. I'm afraid of you. Wang Ziheng sneered, I have never been afraid of playing basketball. Everyone dispersed, and Shuhan followed Tang Shuyin to the office. Hat off. Tang Shuyin's voice was very soft, even gentle, completely different from the coldness just now. Shuhan took off his hat obediently, revealing the purple scars on the corners of his mouth and eyes. He pulled the corner of his mouth and accidentally pulled the wound, causing him to grimace in pain. You can still laugh. Tang Shuyin looked at his silly appearance, and her original anger disappeared in an instant. Little guy, you're so silly that you're a little cute. Come on. Come back with me and I'll take care of it for you. Shuhan followed Tang Shuyin silently and walked towards the apartment. This scene is a bit familiar, just like the night when Tang Shuyin picked up Shuhan from the police station. It's just daytime now. Tang Shuyin took out a household medicine box from the bedroom, which was equipped with iodine and cotton swabs. Hold on. Shuhan did not reply, but just looked at Tang Shuyin quietly. It seemed like he had never seen her so closely before. She was really beautiful, with her long eyelashes fluttering up and down, making Shuhan forget the pain. The two people were only separated by the length of a cotton swab. Tang Shuyin felt his fiery gaze and carefully wiped the wound with the cotton swab in her hand. She felt her heart beating so fast, and the clear sound came into her ears. Shuhan's profile is very handsome, with a high nose bridge and warm eyes. He does look a bit like the boys in idol dramas. The cotton swab moved upwards and touched the blue corner of the eye. The warm breath from Tang Shuyin blew onto Shuhan's face, instantly making his ears turn red. Shuhan closed his eyes, not daring to look directly at Tang Shuyin's delicate face. The more he tried not to look at her, the more restless he became. I'll do it myself. He couldn't hold on any longer and was afraid that he would explode if he stayed for another second. Shuhan stretched out his hand and accidentally touched Tang Shuyin's white and slender fingers, and he quickly retracted his hand. I can see it on my arms and legs, I wipe it myself. Shuhan blushed and didn't dare to look into Tang Shuyin's eyes, like a child who had done something bad. Tang Shuyin saw his red cheeks all the way to his ears and knew that he was really shy. It seems that he really has never had much contact with girls. Did I hurt you? No. Shuhan quickly denied it. She was really gentle to him just now, so gentle that he couldn't stand it. If other boys knew what he was thinking, they would probably scold him. The cold goddess was gentle to him, but he was unwilling to do so. With just one word. Chapter 18. Seeing you is the most important thing. Shuhan treated his wound in the apartment and went back to class. It's just a little skin abrasion, it won't affect his normal activities at all, he's not that delicate. After class, Wang Ziheng organized the boys who participated in the basketball game to go to the court for practice. Shuhan didn't want to participate at first, but because of Che Song's matter, he suddenly became interested. The desire to win among boys sometimes seems childish, especially when it's because of a girl they like, it becomes even stronger. After signing up for the competition, Shuhan would drag Wang Ziheng and Lin Jinghao to practice whenever he had time. Zhao Leffen became a cheerleader and worked part-time as a water seller. Brothers, why do I feel more nervous watching you guys compete than when I'm the one playing? Zhao Leffen stood in the middle, and the four people from dormitory 520 were walking towards the basketball court. The official competition has begun. Wang Ziheng patted Zhao Leffen on the shoulder, full of confidence. Don't worry, with me here, we will definitely win. Suddenly, as if he had thought of something, he added with a wry smile, I heard that Che Song's class had been eliminated. I thought they were so amazing, but they just talked nonsense for half an hour. Wang Ziheng is the class monitor and attaches great importance to this basketball game. He is always trying to get information from all sides. It is not surprising for him to know that Xie Song and his team were eliminated. This surprised Xu Han. He prepared carefully for the game, and also hoped to teach Xie Song a lesson when they met again on the field. It seems it is of no use. But it is reasonable for them to be eliminated. Xie Song is a senior. Many people have gone out for internships and only a few people stay in school. I'm afraid no one is willing to waste time on this. After the last conflict, Xu Han and Tang Xin haven't seen each other for a few days. He is preparing for the basketball game. Tang Xin is a counselor and does not need to attend classes every day, so she does not need to come to school. Even though Xu Han knew where her apartment was, he couldn't just run to find her without any reason. Ask him why he came. How do you answer? The two of them were in contact too frequently. If others knew about it, they might start to talk nonsense, which would not look good on her as a counselor. As soon as Xu Han and his four companions walked into the basketball court, they saw many players already warming up, and there were also quite a few students who came to watch the game. They took a quick look, found the location of the second screenwriter team and walked straight over. Lin Jinghao poked Xu Han and asked him to look forward. Look at Wang Yi, he is chatting enthusiastically with the instructor. Xu Han followed his gaze and saw Wang Yi wearing the number 24 jersey, standing in front of Tang Xin and saying something. He looked very happy. Tang Xin's face was calm, with no change in expression. She was wearing a loose casual sportswear in black, which suited her temperament very well. The beautiful ponytail tied up high shows off her delicate facial features. She is a beautiful sight throughout the entire competition field. Many boys will unconsciously turn their heads to look at her. Tang Xin looked calm, but she was not very happy in her heart. As the class counselor, when a boy pursued her and was rejected by her, he was tactful and stopped bothering her. After all, she is a teacher. There is an unbridgeable gap between students and teachers, and they also have their limits. However, Wang Yi is obviously a person who does not know his limits. After Tang Xin rejected him many times, the other party acted as if nothing had happened and continued to do as he pleased. He is really shameless. Teacher Tang, if I win the competition, can I add you on WeChat? We can even have dinner together. Wang Yi looked at Tang Xin with a smile. He is tall, handsome and a bit tough. Many girls like him. Many girls not far away have their eyes on him. Tang Xin's serious face showed displeasure, and she subconsciously took 2 steps back. If you have something to say it in the group, I can see it. As for eating, the school does not allow teachers and students to eat alone. The school didn't forbid it, this was just an excuse she made up. Tang Xin turned her head and looked at the stadium, friendship first. Wang Yi's eyes never left Tang Xin, and he still kept smiling. I will definitely bring the trophy back to you. He probably felt that girls all like winners, but Tang Xin really didn't care about this kind of competition. She came to watch the game because their class was going to participate, and as a counselor it was her responsibility to come and watch. Of course, if there were other reasons, only she herself knew. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, she saw Xu Han walking towards her. The two of them looked at each other, neither looking away. Xu Han took in all the changes in her expression, the helplessness she showed when facing Wang Yi just now, and the light that flashed in her eyes when she looked at him now. Xu Han took 2 quick steps and was about to go to her side. Lin Jinghao next to him muttered, "Let's stay here. I'll go say hello. I haven't thanked Teacher Tang last time." Xu Han glanced at Lin Jinghao. Lin Jinghao wanted to give a reminder, but when the words came to his lips, he didn't say anything. Xu Han put down what he was holding and strode over. Wang Ziheng and Zhao Lefen looked at his back and had no idea what he wanted to do. As Xu Han approached, he heard Wang Yi's dog-licking voice, "Teacher Tang, the competition is about to start, can you help me look after my things?" Tang Xin looked at Xu Han coming towards her, her face was calm but her heart was relaxed. The little guy finally showed up. What is so precious? You even need Teacher Tang to look after it for you personally. Xu Han's voice was a little cold, completely different from the gentleness he showed when he looked at Tang Xin. The flattering smile on Wang Yi's face disappeared instantly. He turned his head and saw Xu Han. "I'm talking to Teacher Tang, why are you butting in?" "I have something important to discuss with Teacher Tang." Xu Han looked at him expressionlessly. "It's more important than this pile of clothes of yours." Wang Yi looked at Xu Han's somewhat cold face, and his expression also turned grim. He had heard people say that Xu Han carried Tang Xin to the infirmary. Although I haven't seen it with my own eyes, it is definitely not groundless. All the boys in the class knew that when Yi wanted to pursue Tang Xin. He acted so obviously that even a fool could see it. But Shu Han, this fool, might not know it yet. Wang Yi looked at Shu Han unhappily and left angrily. Before leaving, he turned around and smiled at Tang Xueying, thinking he was very handsome. Are you disgusted? You are so greasy at such a young age. Tang Xueying frowned slightly and looked at Shu Han in front of her. What important matter do you want to talk to me about? Shu Han scratched his head, completely losing his previous coldness. He looked at her helplessly. Important thing. Meeting you is the important thing. Tang Xueying blushed, again. Why are you suddenly hitting the ball straight again? She originally wanted to tease him, but a straight shot made her unable to do it. Chapter 19. Something is wrong with you, tell the truth. Shu Han looked up at Tang Xueying with a smile on his face, and asked in a low voice, now that we've won the game, can we have dinner together? A barely perceptible smile flashed across Tang Xueying's eyes. Do you want to bring your senior sister Jiang? Senior Jiang? She shouldn't be free. Shu Han gave the answer without even asking, and this time he reacted quickly because he wanted to have dinner alone with Tang Xueying. As for senior sister Jiang, let us talk about it next time we meet. Jiang Yanan, who was lying in the dormitory, didn't know that she, the light bulb, had been abandoned. Wang Ziheng came over from behind and said, Xiao Han, it's about to begin. Come on. A smile appeared on Tang Xueying's lips. Shu Han nodded heavily and turned back to change his clothes. Tang Xueying found an empty seat and sat down, and the girls from her class also came over. Teacher Tang. The one who greeted her was Han Feifei, and next to her was Lu Shanqing. Both of them were students in the class. Tang Xueying smiled and nodded. Are you guys coming to watch the game too? Han Feifei's face didn't look very good. She just saw Shu Han and Tang Xueying standing together and talking a lot. And now she has even added Shu Han on WeChat. Obviously there are many boys who like her, but what makes people curious is that she just keeps chasing after Shu Han. No one knows what's going on in her mind. The whistle sounded on the field, and the surroundings instantly became quiet, with all eyes focused on the court. Shu Han is a pretty good player, and after several days of training, he is definitely not just here to make up the numbers. He seldom appears on the court, and his classmates who often play basketball don't recognize him. I have to say that Wang Ziheng is still very good. He made 3 consecutive shots and attracted screams from countless girls in the audience. When someone who is too powerful is discovered by his opponents, their defense will be strengthened. When he was unable to get rid of the ball, he threw it to Shu Han. This caused dissatisfaction in Wang Yi, who complained that he didn't pass it to him and that he would lose a scoring goal. Shu Han just stepped into the 3-point line, received the pass, and broke through directly, avoiding 2 defenders and coming to the basket. Bang! The basketball lands safely in the pocket. In. Wang Yi was stunned standing on the outside. He didn't expect Shu Han to have such strong explosive power. Good shot. Wang Ziheng was more excited when he saw his brother score a goal than when he scored himself. Tang Xueying stared at Shu Han. Every move he made just now was clearly seen by him. The girls around me also let out shrill screams. I didn't expect Shu Han to be so handsome when playing basketball. I was originally going to watch Lin Jinghao, but unfortunately he went to the bench. However, Shu Han was a real surprise. Listening to the conversation of the girls around her, Tang Xueying nodded silently. The little guy really surprised her, always bringing some unexpected surprises. Shu Han ran on the court, making jump shots and 3-pointers, all of which hit the target. The defensive players around him also began to pay attention to his actions. Being double-teamed by 3 people, he was forced to the ground and slid out. Seeing this scene, Tang Xueying's heart tightened and she prayed that he would not get hurt. She realized that her reaction was a little strange, as if she was a little too excited. I quickly comforted myself, this is the teacher's love for his students. On the court, Wang Yi pulled Shu Han up and patted him on the shoulder. Well done. Wang Yi is also good at playing basketball, his level is higher than Shu Han, which Shu Han himself admits. In the following time, Shu Han, Wang Yi and Wang Ziheng played on 3 lines at the same time, attacking from multiple points, making it difficult for the opponent to cope. After one game, they won by 18 points and finally won the victory with great difficulty. The cheers of the girls resounded throughout the basketball hall. Love to Read free novels app has the fastest update, no ads, and the Old Bookworm customer service can help you find the books you want to read. After the game, Shu Han sat in the rest area, and Zhao Leffen opened a bottle of water and put it in his hand. Shu Han glanced at him and teased, "You're becoming more and more like a butler." "Yes, I agree." Lin Jinghao and Wang Ziheng also came over and sat down, expressing their support for Shu Han's words. While the four were talking, Wang Yi strode over and called Shu Han's name directly. Shu Han looked up and met his puzzled eyes. I didn't expect that you can play basketball too. Shu Han smiled and said nothing. Didn't you just see it? Will you fight? It's unnecessary to ask this. Seeing that he was silent, Wang Yi smiled and sat beside him, and whispered, Are you familiar with Teacher Tang? Shu Han turned his head and looked at him, not understanding what he meant. We all know our instructor. Wang Yi knew that he was deliberately trying to smooth things over and answering questions that were not asked. He had just clearly seen Tang Shuying and Shu Han talking a lot. According to his experience, Tang Shuying treated Shu Han differently. She didn't treat him like a teacher to a student. She treated him like a familiar friend. Or maybe Tang Shuying had never shown this kind of attitude towards him before, which made him feel unhappy. When he stared at Shu Han, and seeing that he was indifferent, he decided to get straight to the point. I want to pursue the instructor, you know it. Shu Han shook his head and looked at him as if he were a fool. What does this have to do with me? Wang Yi was speechless. He even suspected that Shu Han was mentally ill. His meaning was so obvious, but he still didn't understand. Really stupid or just pretending to be stupid? He turned around and thought for a moment, maybe he was stupid and was competing with a fool. Looking at Wang Yi's leaving back, Shu Han showed a strange smile, hoping that he wouldn't go too far, otherwise, he would be in trouble. As soon as Wang Yi left, the girls who were watching the game in the audience also gathered around. They handed the water to several people. Wang Ziheng took the water handed to him by Lu Shanqing and took a big gulp. Most people brought water to Lin Jinghao, and he was also helpless because he didn't even play on the court, so what was the point of drinking? Han Feifei handed her water to Shu Han, who shook his head apologetically, got up and went to the changing room. Tang Shuyin sat in the crowd, watching everything that happened silently. The little guy seemed to be very popular. It seems like boys like him too. Her idea is indeed correct, Shu Han is trying hard to learn to integrate with everyone. As Xu Ruolan said, changing some psychological things is difficult, requires a process, and is painful. After rebirth, Shu Han also realized that many of the mistakes he made in his previous life were caused by character flaws, so he wanted to change. Shu Han changed his clothes, took out his cell phone and sent a text message to Tang Shuyin. I won. There's also a grimacing expression at the end. Tang Shuyin received this message as soon as she returned to the office. Looking at this somewhat childish message, she smiled without even noticing it. Like a kid who takes credit after finishing his housework. When Jiang Yanan walked in, she saw Tang Shuyin grinning at her phone and was stunned for a moment. This is not right. Tang, what's wrong with you? Tang Shuyin immediately regained her composure and looked up at Jiang Yanan. What's wrong? You're actually smiling at your phone. Is there something wrong with you? Jiang Yanan knows her best friend too well, she has never been in a relationship in college. The expression just now made her feel that something was going to happen. Girls understand girls best. She quickly rushed in front of Tang Shuyin and stared at her. Tell the truth. I just watched a funny video. Chapter 20 Beautiful Sister. Tang Shuyin used her own method to dispel Jiang Yanan's wild thoughts. After declining her invitation to dinner, he went straight back to his apartment. Tomorrow is a day off. She promised the little one to have dinner together and wanted to go back to prepare something, but she didn't know what to prepare. Tang Shuyin walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and muttered inexplicably, What should I wear tomorrow? She took out a piece of clothing, tried it on her body twice, and put it back. When she tried the third piece, her fingers suddenly stopped in mid-air. This isn't right. It's just a meal, why do you suddenly care so much? Even though he was thinking this in his mind, the corners of his lips couldn't help but rise, as if he didn't dislike this feeling. Tang Shuyin didn't dwell on it any longer, but closed the wardrobe and went to take a shower. She still had work to do at night, and the professional recording equipment in her bedroom was the beginning of her relationship with Han Sangaying. After Shu Han returned to the dormitory, he quickly washed up and went to the barber shop to get a haircut. This barber shop is very serious. He sat in front of the computer, opened the forum and wrote his own short play story. After finishing one article, he was pleasantly surprised to find that their Moon Shadow Trio were also online. In the dialog box, enter the text and click send. Han Sangaying, what should you pay attention to when eating alone with a girl for the first time? The person on the other side looked at this question and thought about it for a long time. It seemed that he had no experience either. Yuying 3, the girl you like. Shu Han raised his lips and replied immediately. A beautiful sister whom I like very much. The moon shadow trio in the apartment stared at these words and touched their hot faces. The two chatted for about half an hour and then went offline. The moon was dark and deep, and the world suddenly became quiet. At dawn, Shuhan woke up to the sound of snoring in the dormitory. He checked the time and decided to take a shower and leave quickly while the three older kids in the dormitory were still asleep. When he showed up at the apartment, Tang had already prepared 2 servings of breakfast, as if she had anticipated his arrival. Shuhan looked at the breakfast on the table, then looked at the breakfast he brought in his hand, and the breakfast in his hand suddenly didn't smell good anymore. It smells so good. Sit down and eat. Tang pointed to the stool next to her, placed a bowl of hot treasure porridge in front of him, and pulled the stool over and sat down. The hot steam of the porridge floats slowly. A man and a woman sit face to face at the dining table, eating breakfast quietly, warm and peaceful. After dinner, Shuhan took the initiative to wash the dishes. Tang still had work to do, so she went back to the bedroom. In the living room, Shuhan packed up his things, sat on the sofa, picked up the book on the table and started reading. The book tells a story of unrequited love, similar to the Liangzhu drama. I don't know how long he watched, but he fell asleep. In the bedroom, Tang finished her work, changed into the clothes she had selected, and walked out. Shuhan was lying on the sofa, covering his face with a book, and fell asleep. She quietly walked to the sofa, lifted the book covering her face, and looked at him carefully. Little guy. Shuhan frowned, his eyes were tightly closed, beads of sweat appeared on his forehead, and he kept muttering, "Help me. Don't go." It seemed like he had encountered something terrible. A nightmare. Tang stretched out her hand and shook him. Shuhan suddenly grabbed her hand and opened his eyes suddenly. When the beautiful sister's pretty face appeared in front of him, he sat up immediately. Tang looked at him tenderly, took out a tissue and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. A nightmare. Her voice was soft and contained worry. Shuhan paused for a moment before speaking slowly. "I'm sorry, I scared you. I didn't mean to." His eyes were full of guilt, blaming himself for falling asleep. Tang shook her head and touched his hair subconsciously. "You didn't do anything wrong, why are you apologizing?" Shuhan was startled by her action, and all the negative emotions just now disappeared, replaced by happiness and incomparable excitement. Only then did he realize that teacher Tang had changed her clothes. She was wearing a yellow ink-printed shirt and light blue jeans, which completely exposed her long legs in front of him. The queen style directly touched Shuhan's heart and made him a little dazed. "Does it look good?" "It's good," Shuhan said unconsciously, and his eyes could hardly move away. Love to read free novels updates the fastest, has no ads, and the old bookworm customer service will help you find the books you want to read. Then how long will you hold on? Shuhan was stunned, then he realized that he was still holding her hand. Reluctantly letting go of her soft and slippery palm, Shuhan realized that he was a little rude. "No. I'm sorry." Shuhan quickly stood up, not daring to look at her face. "Can I use the bathroom?" He just had sweat on his face, and now he really feels uncomfortable. Tang looked at his silly look and nodded. "I'll get you a towel." Then she pushed the door open and walked back to the bedroom, took out a new pink towel and handed it to Shuhan. He took the towel and smelled a faint scent of lavender, which should be the smell of laundry detergent. "Thanks." Shuhan walked into the bathroom, turned on the cold water, and washed his face vigorously. As the cold water flowed across his cheeks, he realized that what had just happened was real. Tang sat on the sofa, listening to the sound of flowing water and recalling Shuhan's painful expression in her dream just now. She seemed to understand what Shu Ruolan had said to her. Now it seemed that the little girl was also working hard to break through herself. Shuhan opened the door and walked out of the bathroom. He was completely back to his previous state. He looked at Tang with a smile. "Shall we set off now?" "Let's go." The two of them changed their shoes at the door and waited for the elevator to go downstairs. Shuhan couldn't help but take a peek. "Teacher Tang, what do you want to eat?" Tang raised her eyes and stared at him without saying a word. This made Shuhan a little nervous. Did he say something wrong, or was there something stuck on his face? He touched his face, and it seemed like there was nothing. "Do you think the title of teacher is a bit old-fashioned?" Tang looked at him seriously, wanting to know what kind of answer the little guy would give her. "So what do you want me to call you?" Shuhan became smart this time and pushed the problem back. After he finished speaking, he stared at Tang. The distance between them was inexplicably close, and they stood side by side at the elevator entrance. "What do you call Jiang Yanan?" Senior. Shuhan actually doesn't like this title, but things must always proceed step by step, and calling her senior sister is already a small step forward. The elevator door opened and two people walked in one after the other. When they walked out of the community, the car they called just stopped and they got in and left. Chapter 21. He pounced on me first. The two of them came all the way to the mall. Various children's amusement equipment are placed in the small square at the entrance of the shopping mall, and many children have gathered here. The girl in the pink skirt is jumping on the trampoline with a childish smile on her face. Shuhan turned his head and saw that Tang Xuyin was looking in the same direction as him. I looked down at the time and realized it was still a bit early for lunch since I was quite full after having breakfast. Senior, follow me. Shuhan said this and walked ahead. Tang Xuyin was stunned, looking at the little guy's back, wondering where he was going. Seeing her standing still, Shuhan reached out and pulled her arm, then quickly let go. Come on. Tang Xuyin felt the warmth from his firm palm, which made her heart beat faster. Shuhan walked to the ticket-selling aunt and whispered a few words. The other party glanced at Tang Xuyin and shook her head regretfully. Shuhan pointed to the carousel in the distance again, and the aunt nodded happily. The two seemed to have made some kind of deal. After a while, Shuhan returned to Tang Xuyin and met her somewhat puzzled gaze. I can't jump on the trampoline anymore, but I can ride the merry-go-round. He pointed to the carousel that was open not far away, and the ticket seller had already walked over and opened the door. Tang Xuyin was stunned and looked at the little guy curiously. Isn't that for children? There's no rule that adults can't play, right? Shuhan looked at her innocently, took her arm and walked over. The ticket seller saw the two people coming and left very consciously. Tang Xuyin was pulled by Shuhan to sit on the wooden horse. As the cheerful music sounded, the wooden horse began to rotate slowly. She had seen other girls sitting on the wooden horse before and thought they were a bit childish. But when she sat on it herself, she seemed to experience their happiness. It turns out that it wasn't that she didn't like it, but that no one was willing to play these things that looked a bit childish with her. In the eyes of others, she is cold and boring. Apart from work, it seems that nothing else can arouse her interest. But, after all, she is still a girl. Snap! A crisp shutter sound was heard, and when she turned around, she saw Shuhan holding up his phone to take a picture of her. Tang Xuyin's pretty face began to turn red. After looking away, she didn't know where to look for a moment. The little guy is getting bolder and bolder, and even dares to take pictures without permission. Thinking of this, I didn't feel angry at all, but rather very happy. If Jiang Yanan saw her current appearance, she would be shocked. How could she still be the recognized cool goddess of Haicheng University? She clearly looks like a little girl. As the music ended, the carousel slowly stopped. Shuhan held his cell phone in his hand and lay on the wooden horse next to him, with no intention of getting down at all. Tang Xuyin looked at his silly look with a calm expression. Let's go. Shuhan didn't say anything and followed her into the mall. Senior, how about grilled fish? Shuhan pointed to the grilled fish shop in front of him and asked. He did his homework last night, and learned all of it indirectly from senior sister Jiang. He had a pretty good idea of what Tang Xuyin liked to eat and drink. Sure. I'm fine. The two found an empty seat in the store, sat down, ordered their food, and waited quietly. Senior sister, where are you from? Shuhan suddenly asked. Jiangcheng. Tang Xuyin replied, not far from Haicheng. Shuhan nodded. Jiangcheng and Haicheng are two neighboring cities, about 200 kilometers apart. Why are you asking this suddenly? Tang Xuyin looked at him and asked curiously. No, I want to know more. Shuhan smiled. Tang Xuyin laughed in her heart and wanted to tease him. Do you want to know more about Teacher Tang, or do you want to know more about me? Shuhan raised his eyes to look at her and met her gaze. Aren't you alone? After thinking for a while, he said, I want to know everything. Then do you know how old I am? Tang Xuyin blinked and looked at him with a faint smile. I know. Shuhan looked at him sincerely, and neither of them avoided his gaze. Yes. Tang Xuyin nodded, that's good. Tang Xuyin had already seen Shuhan's detailed information a long time ago. This can be considered a benefit of being a counselor. While the two were talking, the steaming grilled fish was served on the table. Only then did Tang Xuyin realize that the dishes served were all her favorite flavors. When ordering food just now, she deliberately asked Shuhan to order, wanting him to have some of his favorite food. After all, senior sister Shu asked her to take care of him. I don't know where the little guy got this information from. Both Jiang Yanan and senior sister Shu are possible, but the former is more likely. When the two were almost done eating, Tang Xuan's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the incoming call and made a gesture to Shu Han to keep quiet. Junior sister Tang, I have something to trouble you. When a voice came from the receiver, Shu Han was startled. This voice was too familiar to him. Who else could it be but his second sister Shu Ruolan? I was so scared that I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was caught doing something bad secretly. Tang Xuan held the phone with a calm expression as she listened to the other party speak. Yes. I need it urgently, so you may not have seen the message I sent you just now. After the conversation between the two ended, Tang Xuan started to operate something on her mobile phone, as if she was retrieving some information. It took me about 5 or 6 minutes before I put my phone down. Is it my second sister? Shu Han asked in a low voice. Yes. She needs some information, let me pass it to her. Tang Xuan picked up a piece of fish and put it into Shu Han's bowl. Eat more. Shu Han hummed and started eating. Tang Xuan looked at him eating happily and felt a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. The phone lit up, and it was an emoticon of thanks sent by Shu Ruolan. Tang Xuan took a photo without leaving any trace and sent it to her. In the photo, Shu Han was eating quietly. Caption: I was eating just now and didn't see your message. Shu Ruolan replied immediately. No way. That's my little brother. Did you two secretly date? Seeing the word date, Tang Xuan's lips twitched slightly. Date? Probably not. It's okay for teachers and students to eat together. Absolutely fine, not a date. Tang Xuan replied, didn't you ask me to take care of him? Put it this way, it seems perfect and there is nothing wrong with it. I'm helping my senior sister take care of my brother. It's a legitimate reason. Shu Ruolan quickly replied, I feel like you have ulterior motives. I treat you as my junior sister, you don't want to be my younger brother's sister. Tang Xuan was speechless when she saw this unreliable statement. She really wanted to tell her that it was obviously his younger brother who pounced on her. Self-defense. When she put down her phone and looked up, she met Shu Han's gentle eyes, staring at her. Chapter 22. Watch a movie. What's wrong? Tang Xuan felt a little flustered when she was stared at, as if her little thoughts had been discovered. It's so beautiful, I want to watch it for a while longer. Shu Han spoke bluntly, not caring at all whether anyone around could hear him. Tang Xuan was speechless after being teased by this little guy. She used to dislike such explicit words. If other boys said that to her, she would be disgusted. However, the little guy in front of me didn't seem to be disgusted when he said similar words. Look at me, so you won't eat anymore. Shu Han nodded obediently, I'm full. He was telling the truth. He ate it all in one go. The grilled fish here tastes really good. Tang Xuan took out a wet tissue from her bag and handed it to Shu Han. Let's go. The two walked out of the grilled fish restaurant side by side. When passing by the milk tea shop, Shu Han bought 2 cups of fruit tea. Jiang Yanan said that her senior likes fruit tea, which is the same taste as Shu Han. Tang Xuan looked at the fruit tea in her hand and felt more and more that she was betrayed by her best friend. Little guy, it was premeditated. Senior, do you want to watch a movie? Shu Han saw the movie theater on the 5th floor. Tang Xuan followed his gaze and saw that there were indeed quite a few couples preparing to enter the upstairs. Watching a movie. Wouldn't that really make it a date? She was a little conflicted, but couldn't bear to refuse. I don't want to do it in my heart, but I am honest with my words. At the ticket window, Shu Han wanted to buy tickets for action movies, but unfortunately there were only romance movies available. I had to settle for the second best and choose one. It doesn't matter what movie you watch, but who you watch it with is the key. Since it is a romance film, popcorn and coca are naturally indispensable, and the atmosphere must be there. The movie is a very niche subject, with a bit of literary style, and not many people watch it. Shu Han took a quick look and saw about 5 or 6 couples scattered in different locations. Shu Han followed Tang Xuan and found an empty seat and sat down. The lights went out, and the surroundings became quiet. The other couples sat in the back corner. Shu Han was silent for a while before speaking. It probably won't look good. Yeah. Tang Xuan nodded, but wanted to laugh in her heart. I don't know if the little guy did it on purpose. How about we change seats? Shu Han sighed, turned his head to look at the darkness behind him, and lowered his voice, or let's change the movie. It started. Tang Xuan didn't answer, but gestured for him to look ahead. Shu Han didn't say anything else. He looked at her face from the side. The dim light fell on her. Her eyelashes fluttered and her cheeks were smooth and tender. She looked like a fairy walking out of a painting. Especially her moist lips, which made him feel restless. Shuhan swallowed silently and quickly looked away. If we continue watching this atmosphere, I don't know what will happen. The movie officially began. Shuhan breathed a sigh of relief and leaned back in his chair. Tang Xuyin glanced at Shuhan from the corner of her eye. His eyes were bright and from the side, he really looked like a movie star, especially his thin lips. It looks delicious. Tang Xuyin blushed. What a sinful thought. She criticized herself harshly for having such thoughts. Hurry up and get some popcorn to cover up your thoughts. As soon as she put her hand in, she touched Shuhan's hand, and their hands stuck together in the popcorn bucket. For a moment, Tang Xuyin's calm face became a little hot, and the previous contact between them came to her mind all at once. Carry her on your back, change her shoes, and hug her like a princess. Shuhan felt Tang Xuyin's hot hand, quickly took it back, and pretended to look over unintentionally. She seemed to have not changed, her eyes were always on the movie screen. For a student majoring in screenwriting, such a movie seemed too bland. At some point, in the darkness of the theater, there were some rustling movements, accompanied by indescribable sounds. After hearing this, Tang Xuyin's expression remained calm. Shuhan turned his head in the direction where the voice came from, his face slightly red. Tang Xuyin reached out and pressed his face, pulling him back. Just watch the movie. Shuhan blinked and looked at her, his eyes full of curiosity. Tang Xuyin suddenly leaned forward and stared at him with wide eyes. Don't look around. A refreshing and pleasant smell came, and Shuhan felt like he was about to faint and forgot to respond. He felt his ears were burning. They were too close to each other, and if he lowered his head slightly, he would touch that softness. They listened to each other's heartbeat and are moving towards the same frequency. Shuhan's Adam's apple moved, and he suppressed his instinctive impulse and spoke with difficulty. Senior, let's go. The words came out with a fiery breath, sprinkling on Tang Xuyin's delicate face and dyeing her fair cheeks red. Tang Xuyin stood up, grabbed Shuhan's wrist and walked out. Shuhan's ears turned red, and he let Tang Xuyin pull him. He only hated that he didn't have the ability to freeze time. I just hope that this road can be longer and longer, and that we can walk slowly on it. Tang Xuyin has no experience of watching movies with the opposite sex, so she needs to calm down in such an ambiguous atmosphere. No matter how cold she was still a mortal girl, and her action of getting close to Shuhan just now seemed too intimate. After watching the movie, the two of them blushed so many times. After walking out of the cinema, the two fell into a brief silence. Are you going home during the National Day holiday? Tang Xuyin suddenly asked. Shuhan didn't know why she suddenly cared about this, so he shook his head and said truthfully, no. When he went back, he would go to his uncle's house, but his uncle was too busy, so if he went there, he would only be able to stay in an empty house. I used to have my second sister to accompany me, but she is also abroad and definitely can't come back. During the National Day holiday, there will be a seminar on short plays in Jiangcheng. Are you interested? As soon as Tang Xuyin mentioned serious matters, her expression turned serious. Shuhan didn't expect that she would think of him in this matter, which surprised him a little. I'm not qualified enough. To participate in this kind of seminar, you need to have some achievements or be recommended by someone to be eligible to enter. He is still a freshman now and has no outstanding academic performance. He is definitely an unknown person. I can take you there. Although I can't enter the high-level seminar hall, it is still rewarding to communicate with everyone. Tang Xuyin decided to invite him to go with her simply because he did have talent in this area. She had read the short play written by Shuhan, and combined with his idea this time, she was indeed a little surprised. Of course Shuhan accepted it with pleasure. Communicating with other authors was one thing, but the most important thing was that he could go out with a beautiful sister. Naturally, he would not refuse such a good job. The holiday lasts 7 days, and the seminar is on the 6th day. He can also take a trip to Jiangcheng for fun. Chapter 23 Holidays are coming. As soon as Shuhan stepped into the dormitory, he saw Lin Jinghao and Zhao Lefen staring at him with ill intentions. Zhao Lefen also showed an extremely obscene smile. Tell me the truth, where did you go without telling your fathers? A day trip to the library. Shuhan quickly covered up. I don't trust you. Zhao Lefen stood up, hugged his neck, and grinned. Is there something wrong? Tell me, I'll give you some advice. Yes. The holiday is coming soon. Are you planning to go home? Shuhan quickly changed the subject. There was nothing that made them more excited than having a holiday. Zhao Leffen sniffed and leaned directly against Shu Han, looking at him in shock. No. This smell. Fuck, you smell like perfume. Is it the smell of a woman? Zhao Leffen looked at Shu Han in disbelief, his brain working at full speed. This grown-up boy had gone out to do something bad behind their backs. Who is it? Is it Han Feifei? I was wondering why you were so mysterious and never came home. It turns out you have been secretly. Shu Han was completely speechless. How did this involve Han Feifei? When talking about girls, Zhao Leffen became excited. Thinking of the last time Han Feifei blocked Shu Han, he had already imagined a drama between a man and a woman. Didn't you say last time that you didn't like her? I was planning to pursue her. If you had told me earlier, I wouldn't have done it. Zhao Leffen looked serious, as if he could catch up. I don't know who gave him the confidence. With Zhao Leffen's IQ, a girl like Han Feifei is not good enough to play with. I just went out for a meal, I guess I bumped into him by accident. Did this happen by accident? Zhao Leffen pulled a strand of hair from Shu Han's shoulder and held it in front of him. An attitude that says I'm waiting for you to make excuses. Their hair is very long. Standard woman's hair. Lin Jinghao, who was standing by, was interested in watching the fun. He walked forward to take a look and nodded seriously. Based on my experience, this is 100% a woman's hair, and it wasn't an accidental touch. Lin Jinghao's exaggeration ignited Zhao Leffen's gossip fire. He took their hair and smelled it. Yes, it smells the same as you. If you don't tell the truth, don't blame me for giving you a big slap. Thinking about what happened last time, Shu Han subconsciously clamped his legs together. But, we can't tell the truth. Not to mention that nothing has happened between him and Tang Xian now. Even if something happens in the future, he still has to think seriously about whether to tell them or not. I'm back. Just then, the door opened and the squad leader walked in with a beaming face. Shu Han felt relieved, the savior has come. He now needs to quickly divert the blame to Wang Ziheng. Hey! Class monitor, you changed into new clothes. The girls must have chosen them for you. You figured this out. Wang Ziheng answered with a smile, his face filled with sweetness. Zhao Leffen instantly shifted his gaze and reached out to touch Wang Ziheng's clothes. That doesn't make sense. Who would want you to eat their cabbage? What he meant was that he had cast so many nets but didn't see any fish fry, and yet the two big guys in his dormitory had quietly found out something was wrong. He refused to accept it and rolled on the ground to teach them a lesson. Wang Ziheng was so excited that his mouth almost reached his heels from smiling. My eldest sons. Come and kneel down. I am going to suffer the pain of love. You'll suffer so much. Forget it. Zhao Leffen's envy and jealousy were all written on his face. The hair on Shu Han's body just now only made him suspicious, but he could still accept it in his heart. As a result, the squad leader came back and made the official announcement, which completely broke his young heart. My love brain. Just let him sink into the endless abyss and die on his own. Lin Jinghao, who was standing by, so that the time was right and heated up the topic with a smile. Squad leader, whose flowers are stuck on you. The free novel app of Love Reading has the fastest updates and no ads. The old bookworm customer service will help you find the books you want to read. You've all seen it. Lu Shangqing. The three of them spoke in unison. This made Wang Ziheng embarrassed and his face turned red. By the way, were you talking about the holiday again? Wang Ziheng changed the subject in a timely manner. What are your plans, go out and play or go home? My friends and I have made an appointment to go to Delhi. Are you guys coming with us? That's a great place to meet by chance. When talking about travel plans, Zhao Leffen became excited again. He has this kind of personality, carefree and loyal, and is a lively guy in dormitory 520. I want to go back to Qinggang. My family asked me to go back. Wang Ziheng replied. I probably can't go either. Lin Jinghao sat on the stool and whispered, but my home is in Haicheng, you can come to me if you have any problems. Xiao Han. What about you? When the three saw that Shu Han didn't say anything, all their eyes fell on him. I should be in school, or maybe I'll go to Jiancheng for a few days. Okay. Then we'll keep in touch anytime. Zhao Leffen shook his hair handsomely. Who knows, I may get something unexpected this time. Protect your kidneys. Wang Ziheng joked, and then looked in the direction of his stomach. Shu Han and Lin Jinghao looked at the same time, expressing the same worry. This is for my future wife. No one should think of taking it. We still don't know which mother-in-law's belly your daughter-in-law is in. If you say this, I won't argue with you. Maybe it's true. The holiday season has arrived and the sound of suitcases rolling in the corridors is endless. In the empty dormitory, only Shu-han was left alone. Parting is always a sad word, however, some partings mean never seeing each other again, but fortunately, they can get together again after the holidays. If I could do it again, I would naturally cherish these times more. Shu-han turned on his phone and sent a message to Tang, asking her what time she would be home. The other party sent me a photo, which was a photo of the scenery outside on the high-speed rail. She is already on the high-speed train back to Jiangcheng. Seeing this scene, Shu-han ran straight to the high-speed railway station. Looking at the crowded crowds in the station, he was glad that he had grabbed the ticket in advance. In the waiting room, Shu-han saw a familiar figure, and at the same time, the other party also saw him. "Little brother, do you want to go home?" Jiang Yanan saw Shu-han, dragging a white suitcase, and walked straight towards him. Shu-han smiled politely and greeted her, "Senior Jiang, are you going home?" "Yeah." "Where are you going?" "Maybe we're on the same route." Jiang Yanan stood in front of Shu-han, staring at him with a smile. "I'm going to Jiangcheng to play." "Where is Senior Jiang going?" "You are going to Jiangcheng." "I will also go to Jiangcheng in a few days, but I have to go back to Kyoto first." Jiang Yanan seemed very happy when she heard that Shu-han was going to Jiangcheng, but she felt a little disappointed when she thought that she had to go back to Kyoto first. "Have fun. I'm getting in the car." "Senior Jiang, have a safe trip." Chapter 24: His Coming. Shu-han booked a hotel in the car and also received a call from his uncle. His uncle asked him if he wanted to go back. He said he was not in Chizhou anymore. If he wanted to go back, he should ask someone to pick him up at the station. Shu-han told his uncle that he would not go back and asked him not to worry about him. The conversation between the uncle and nephew was very simple. He grew up in his uncle's home. Later, his uncle's career became busier and busier, and the two had fewer opportunities to meet. However, his uncle would come to see him whenever he had the chance, or call to show his concern. The conversations between men were very direct, but they were all sincere. It was already afternoon when Shu-han arrived in Jiangcheng. He took a taxi directly to the booked hotel. Jiangcheng is also a tourist city. While people from other cities are leaving, this city is filled with tourists pouring in. The journey that was supposed to take 40 minutes took an hour and a half, and it was already dark. Shu-han returned to their hotel, relieved himself of his fatigue, took a nice shower, lay on the bed, and turned on his mobile phone. There are already 99 plus messages in the dormitory group, and these people start to have fun as soon as the holiday starts. Zhao Lefen, guys, I tell you, there are no girls in Dali, only guys. Wang Ziheng, I'll bring you seafood when I go back. It's definitely not contaminated. If I poison you to death, I'll be dead. Lin Jinghao, Xiao Han, have you landed in Jiangcheng? Shu-han took a glance, raised the corner of his mouth, and replied, landed safely. Looking at the pinned chat box, Shu-han clicked it and typed 3 words, are you home? Tang Shuiying had just finished dinner with her parents and returned to her room, sitting listlessly on the bed. As soon as I entered the house, I encountered a fierce battle of pressure to get married. The boy is a natural, has a stable job, and his family situation is not bad. Mom has arranged everything for you. Go meet him tomorrow. Mom, I haven't graduated yet. Can't we talk about it after I graduate? Other people get married in college, it's too late for you to get married as a graduate student. Mom always has her own reasons. Although Tang Shuiying repeatedly refused, unfortunately she ended up in failure. I don't know why, but when I rejected the blind date just now, the image of that little guy kept appearing in my mind. Just as I was lost in thought, my cell phone rang. Are you home yet? When I saw these 3 words, all the messy thoughts were thrown behind my head. I'm full. Tang Shuiying herself couldn't remember when she started chatting with this little guy so frequently. On her chat interface, apart from the work group, there is the chat box of her besties, and the only boy is the little guy. Shu-han was lying on the bed, looking at the chat box and grinning like a fool. He quickly replied, what delicious food is there in Jiangju? Please recommend. The other party did not reply quickly this time, as if he was thinking about this question seriously. About a minute later, a message came from Shu-han's cell phone. For me, the best food is what my mother cooks. Shu-han smiled. What Tang Shuiying said was absolutely right. Nowadays, the snacks sold at every tourist spot are the same. Everywhere you go, you can find stinky tofu and grilled squid. One street brings together delicacies from all over the country. Shuhan hesitated for a long time in front of the phone screen, mustered up the courage to type a line of words, and clicked send with gritted teeth. Just a few words seemed to have exhausted all his strength. After sending the message, he immediately turned off his phone, not daring to read the replies. Can I have a chance to taste the food Auntie cooks? Tang Xuyin looked at the message with a smile on her face. Little guy, do you think I don't know what you are thinking? You can't eat my mother's cooking for now. After seeing this message, Shuhan was disappointed. It's over. Buzz. The phone rang again. Shuhan took a reluctant look and jumped up from the bed after just one look. The couple in the next room almost called the security guard when they heard the noise. What an idiot. The message content is: come to the apartment when you get back, and I can do it for you. Shuhan specially took screenshots and saved them. These are all evidences, so that he won't deny his mistakes later. Just one sentence made him happy until midnight, when he fell into a deep sleep. I don't know if it was because of the fatigue from the journey or because he was too excited, but he slept very soundly and woke up at dawn. Shuhan went to an ancient town as planned. He looked up information online and found that this place is relatively niche and only locals come here, so commercialization is not too obvious. He wore a baseball cap and carried a shoulder bag as he walked on the ancient path with small bridges and flowing water. There were only a few people walking by, so it wasn't too noisy. The water in the river is crystal clear, and koi of different colors are swimming freely. The three boys walking in front of him were dressed similarly to him. When they saw the wooden boat parked on the shore, they couldn't help but want to find out what was going on. I'm standing at the bow, take a picture for me. The boy walking in the middle handed his cell phone to his companion and stretched out his feet to get on the boat. As soon as he put one foot on the boat tilted sideways and fell into the water. If his friend on the shore hadn't reacted quickly and grabbed him, he would have fallen in. The boy was startled and shook off the water stains on his shoes. With lingering fear, he gave up the idea of getting on the boat. Shuhan smiled indifferently. He actually wanted to tell them that it was a boat used to clean up garbage in the river. However, when you go out for fun, you always have to leave some memories behind to make it memorable, right? Shuhan raised his cell phone, and the strange stone statue in front of a coffee shop not far away attracted his attention. When he got closer, the scene in the coffee shop surprised and delighted him. In the coffee shop, Tang Xuyin was sitting face to face with a gentleman-looking boy wearing glasses. The boy was wearing a white shirt and black trousers. He looked very serious and occasionally pushed his glasses on the bridge of his nose. Ms. Tang, you are even more beautiful than in the photo. The boy's face was as smiling as a flower, and he looked at Tang Xuyin greedily, completely attracted by her beauty. When he saw Tang Xuyin's photo for the first time, he felt that he fell in love with her. Before coming, he even went to get his hair done. He is very confident about his identity. Being a public official, a job that many people dream of, this is just icing on the cake for him. Tang Xuyin had a cold expression and thanked him politely in a neutral tone. Thank you. This feeling made her very uncomfortable. If her mother hadn't forced her to come, she would definitely not be here. The man in front of me seemed to have a strong sense of superiority and kept showing off his work. If we can be together, I hope. Just as he continued to talk, he noticed that the girl opposite him was looking at the street outside. There was a little boy across the street, sitting on a stool and staring at them. The man with glasses didn't recognize him, but judging by his appearance, he should be a tourist. Tang Xuyin recognized the other person at a glance. Even through the thick glass and the wide street, she could see the confusion in the little guy's eyes. His coming. Chapter 25 Blind Date. Shuhan sat on a bench on the street, his arms resting on his legs, his head supported by his hands, staring at the two people in the coffee shop through the glass. The beautiful sister is drinking coffee with another man? Want a date? Who is that man to her? I felt jealous, but I had no right to be jealous. She was the teacher and I was the student. It is also her freedom to date other boys. But I was still unhappy, so what should I do? Go up and fight her, that would be too childish, and she wouldn't like it. When I looked up, I met Tang Xuyin's gaze. Did she see me? When Tang Xuyin saw the little guy outside, the corners of her lips lifted up slightly. This smile made the man with glasses opposite her heart beat fast. Is she smiling to herself? Just as he was about to speak, he found that Tang Xuyin had already stood up. Sorry, I still have something to deal with. As soon as she finished speaking, Without waiting for the man with glasses to react, she quickly walked out of the coffee shop. The man with glasses had a look of disappointment on his face. He drank the coffee in front of him in one gulp angrily. The bitter taste made him unable to help but blurt out, "It's unpalatable." Turning around, I saw Tang Xueying standing in front of the little boy on the street. "Why are you here?" Tang Xueying looked down at Xu Han, her face calm, but her heart filled with inexplicable joy. Xu Han tilted his head and looked up at her, so beautiful. I couldn't bear to be angry, but I was still a little angry. "Teacher Tang, what a coincidence. Are you here for the trip too?" Tang Xueying couldn't help laughing when she heard these sour words. Now she's a teacher again. Is the little guy jealous? It's quite a coincidence indeed. Have fun. After saying that, he turned around and left. Seeing that the situation was not good, Xu Han quickly stood up and took 2 quick steps to catch up with her. Just forgive her for the fact that she came out. "Senior, I haven't eaten yet." Tang Xueying was secretly delighted. The little guy was also a master of face changing. It would be a shame if he didn't learn it. She had never expected Xu Han to appear here. In fact, Xu Han didn't know that he would meet Tang Xueying here. This might be fate. It's so wonderful and hard to explain. He didn't ask about the relationship between Tang Xueying and the man with glasses. If she wanted to talk about it, she should tell him. If he asked, it would be too rude. "What do you want to eat?" Tang Xueying slowed down her pace, and the two of them walked side by side, like a couple going out for fun. Xu Han's sudden appearance made Tang Xueying's originally depressed mood suddenly brighten up, and all the unhappiness after returning to Jiangcheng disappeared. "It's your territory, you have the final say." Xu Han was not actually hungry. When he came out, he had eaten a meal and even ate 2 extra eggs. "When I met actress Tangsha, I said I wanted to go out for dinner, but actually I just wanted to stay with her for a while. I was going to look for her anyway, even though it's earlier than expected, but I have to grab her if I meet her. Then eat this." Tang Xueying stood in front of a noodle shop and pointed, and Xu Han also stopped. The noodle shop doesn't have a big entrance and no sign, but it's very clean. It's not even dinner time yet, but the shop is already full of customers who come to eat noodles. Don't underestimate it, it tastes amazing. As they walked into the store, a plump auntie came up to greet them warmly. Seeing the actress Tangsha, she greeted them enthusiastically. Tang, are you here? Are you back to see your mother?" "Yes, it's the National Day holiday, I'll come back and take a look." Tang Xueying seems to be very familiar with the auntie in the shop. She must come here to eat often. Want to keep it the same as before. Same old. Tang Xueying said, then turned to look at Xu Han and asked softly, "Look, what do you want to eat?" Xu Han said without hesitation, "Same." The shop aunt looked at Xu Han, then glanced at Tang Xueying and smiled. "It's with Tang." Xu Han nodded. "Okay. Sit down for a while, it will be ready soon." With that, auntie went into the kitchen. The two found a corner and sat down, and Tang Xueying stared at Xu Han's face. "Why did you come to Jiangcheng?" Xu Han looked up at her and smiled innocently. "Didn't you say you were going to attend a seminar? Come and travel at the same time." I feel a bit guilty saying this, as the seminar starts on the second to last day of the holiday, which is still 4 days away. The people coming now are the organizers, not the participants. How could Tang Xueying not see what he was thinking? "Eat this for lunch, and I'll take you out for something delicious in the evening." Xu Han smiled even more, which meant that he could be with her at night. After a while, the noodles were served, accompanied by various side dishes. The taste was delicious and the soup was fresh, and it really tasted extraordinary. When Xu Han was eating, the aunt in the shop would look at him twice every time he passed by. The way he ate really made people hungry. Not only the shop auntie, but also Tang Xueying sitting opposite felt satisfied when watching him eat. Tang Xueying took out a tissue from the table, handed it to Xu Han, and motioned him to wipe the oil stains off his mouth. Just as she was about to pull her hand back, a familiar figure walked in. Tang Xueying was stunned when she saw the person. The visitor saw Tang Xueying at the same time. From his perspective, Tang Xueying was helping the other person wipe his mouth. The figure walked up to them in 2 steps. Tang Xueying quickly pulled her hand back, stood up, and called out in a low voice, "Mom." Xu Han still didn't know what was going on. He looked up at Tang Xueying with a confused look on his face, then tilted his head to look to the side. An auntie who looked somewhat similar to Tang Xueying was standing there with a serious expression, which was a bit scary. Xu Han quickly swallowed the food in his mouth. He swallowed the noodles whole without even having time to chew them. He almost saw his grandmother on the spot. If I heard correctly just now, the beautiful sister called her mom. No wonder they look so similar. The moment Shuhan saw Tang Xueying's mother, he knew that the beautiful sister had completely inherited excellent genes. Her mother has beautiful facial features and is shorter than Tang Xueying, but she has a very good temperament. No wonder she could raise such an outstanding daughter like her beautiful sister. Shuhan stood up immediately, and Tang's mother's eyes fell on him, looking him up carefully. Shuhan felt very upset. Why did this sharp look seem so familiar? Suddenly I remembered that this feeling was exactly the same as the look Tang Xueying gave me when I first met her. Is this my mother? Tang Xueying quickly introduced. Mom, oh. No. Auntie. Shuhan was so nervous that his speech was completely incoherent, and his mouth followed his feet. Hello, Auntie? My name is Shuhan. Shuhan raised his head and his red face met Tang Mar's gaze. He kept telling himself in his heart that he must not be timid, because the first impression is very important. Tang Xueying beside him looked at him and smiled. Little guy, let us see how you perform. Chapter 26 Tang Mar's Invitation. Tang's mother quickly caught Tang Xueying's smile, and her daughter's reaction made her secretly happy. It seems that this little boy has a special relationship with his daughter. She knew her daughter too well. This seemed to be the first boy who could make her smile. When she first entered the room, Tang's mother thought that the boy sitting opposite Tang Xueying was the boy she was going on a blind date with. When she got closer, she realized that she had never seen this little boy before. The boy has a handsome face and a sunny smile. His eyes are full of tenderness when he looks at Tang Xueying. Xiaoshu, right? Tang's mother immediately changed her expression, showing a motherly smile, and looked at Shuhan gently. Hello, I'm Tang's mother. Shuhan was still nervous, but he felt relieved when he saw Tang Mar's kind attitude. Things happened too suddenly. He didn't expect to meet his beautiful sister's mother here. Met the parents. Don't stand, come sit down. Tang's mother looked at Shuhan with joy and pointed at the noodles that she had not finished eating. Continue eating. How could Shuhan dare to eat it? I don't even dare to digest what I have eaten, but I still keep eating. Auntie. I'm full. Shuhan nodded obediently, looking a little shy, which made Tang's mother like him particularly. It seems that they will not bully their own sweethearts, which looks good. Are you also from Haicheng University? Auntie. I'm from Haicheng University too. So how long have you known my Tang? I've known him for a while. Shuhan answered every question asked by Tang's mother seriously, fearing that he might say something wrong and make her unhappy. Mom. Seeing that her mother was checking her household registration, Tang Xueying quickly spoke out to stop her from asking the next question. Mother Tang turned to look at her daughter, then glanced at the surroundings and realized that it was not polite to ask these questions here. Xiaoshu. How long have you been in Jiancheng? Shuhan glanced at Tang Xueying and immediately replied, go back after the holiday. How could his little action escape Tang's mother's eyes? As a teacher, Tang's mother has eyes as a ruler and no small details escape her. In her opinion, Shuhan's look was asking for Tang Xueying's opinion. Then, my daughter must often bully Xiaoshu. Okay. Then come to your aunt's house for dinner tonight. Tang's mother was very enthusiastic and didn't even look at her daughter's expression. After thinking about it, he changed his mind and said, today is too rushed, let's do it tomorrow. How about tomorrow? I'll prepare well. If a boy comes to your house for dinner, you must treat him well, especially if he has a special relationship with the girl. Tang Xueying next to her stood there in a daze. Is this still her biological mother? He asked the little guy to go to his house for dinner right away without asking for his opinion or caring about Shuhan's identity. She made the decision so happily on her own, and it seems like she takes it very seriously. Tang Xueying glanced at Shuhan. The little guy's wish had come true. He should be happy now. Of course Shuhan would love nothing more than to have that happen. I agreed without even thinking about it. I will be there tomorrow. Thank you for your help, Auntie. Hearing Shuhan's agreement, Tang's mother smiled even brighter and said, okay, repeatedly. Okay. No trouble, remember to come. I'll go back and get ready first. Mother Tang said this and walked out, forgetting what she came here for. When he reached the door, he suddenly thought of something and turned back. He looked up at Tang Xueying and instructed. Just have fun with Xiaoshu. You don't have to go home to accompany me. Okay, that's it. Before leaving, Tang's mother smiled and waved at Shuhan. Have fun. Okay. Thank you, Auntie. Shu Han said politely, watching Tang's mother walk to the door. Auntie, please go slowly. Tang Shuyin choked up, and for a moment she couldn't tell whether she was a biological child or not. My own mother is so enthusiastic towards the little one, but lukewarm towards me. Looking at Shu Han's smiling expression, I suddenly felt a little jealous. At this moment, Shu Han felt both happy and worried. I am happy that I can go to my beautiful sister's house, but I am worried that I don't know whether my aunt likes me or not. What if she doesn't like me? Judging from the aunt's attitude towards me just now, I don't think she hates me. What are you thinking about? Tang Shuyin's voice interrupted Shu Han's thoughts. Shu Han blinked his bright eyes and replied with a smile, I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just a little nervous. Tang Shuyin is becoming less and less resistant to his silly look. Still eating. Shu Han shook his head, took his phone and went to pay the bill. Tang Shuyin stopped him. This is my territory, listen to me. The shop aunt looked at the two young people with a smile and said, neither of you need to get married, Tang's mother has already done it. My mother? Tang Shuyin was a little surprised. This wasn't like her mother's style. Haven't you always supported your own independence? Tang's mom said this is for Sheshu. The shop aunt added some additional advice, making Tang Shuyin certain of one thing, Shu Han was her mother's biological son, and she was adopted. It may also be given as a gift for recharging your phone bill. As they walked out of the noodle shop, Tang Shuyin received a message from her mother, asks Xiaoshu what he likes to eat. I forgot just now. Tang Shuyin glanced at Shu Han next to her, lowered her head and replied, why don't you ask me what I like to eat? You can eat anything you want. Is this what a mother says to her daughter? Tang Shuyin knew that she had fallen out of favor, and it was this little guy in front of her that took it away. My mom asked me to ask you, what do you like to eat? She will make it for you tomorrow. Shu Han's eyes turned, I can eat anything. Whatever you like, I like it too. Tang Shuyin snorted lightly, you are quite sensible little guy. Shu Han was stunned, as if he heard some incredible sound. Was that the sound made by the beautiful sister just now? Tang Shuyin didn't notice the change in Shu Han's expression and just lowered her head to reply to the message. Type a list of your favorite foods in the dialog box and send it directly. Tang's mother replied immediately, aren't these all the things you like to eat? He said he likes to eat these. Tang Shuyin responded confidently, it was the little guy's request in the first place, and she didn't lie. When they passed by a handicraft stall, they saw a pair of hand-woven bunny pendants, which looked very cute. When Shu Han saw Tang Shuyin take a look at it, he quietly bought it after she left. Shu Han walked behind Tang Shuyin and asked in a low voice, Senior sister, is your bag heavy? Can I help you carry it? Tang Shuyin shook her head in confusion, it's not heavy, I can carry it myself. Would you mind adding some weight? Shu Han took 2 quick steps, caught up to her, took out the little rabbit pendant and placed it in his palm. It's not actually that heavy, just keep it. Chapter 27 Passing by. Tang Shuyin looked at Shu Han's palm, the little white rabbit's eyes narrowed into a line, and the corners of his mouth were raised towards her. It looks a bit ugly, but still cute. Tang Shuyin didn't ask whether she wanted it or not, but handed the bag over, you take it. Shu Han understood immediately, reached out to take the bag, skillfully tied the pendant on it, and even shook it in front of his eyes twice, nodding with satisfaction. Along the way, Tang Shuyin was very responsible as a tour guide and would explain to Shu Han the history of some ancient buildings from time to time. These were things he had never heard of before, but Tang Shuyin knew them very well, perhaps because she was a local. However, her voice was very nice. This was the first time Shu Han heard her speak so many words in private, and right next to his ear, and he felt like he remembered it all instantly. You seem to be very interested in history. Seeing Shu Han's serious look, Tang Shuyin suddenly felt like she was giving him a lesson, a private tutoring lesson. Yes. Shu Han nodded. Don't you think history is fascinating? Brick by brick, it has gone through vicissitudes and great changes, but it still stands perfectly in front of you. It is very shocking. After several generations of inheritance, only traces of human beings have been left, and the history books are too thin to record everyone's experience. A line of words that seems inadvertent is a record of the great changes and changes of the times in the past 100 years. When talking about history, Shu Han suddenly started to talk freely without any restraint or shyness. Tang Shuyin did not interrupt him and just acted as a listener. For a moment, she felt that this little guy was very dazzling and more profound than what some scholars on the stage said. Have I talked too much? After Shu Han finished speaking, he realized that he had forgotten himself just now and scratched his head embarrassedly. Tang Shuyin gave an encouraging smile. What you said is great, that's how it should be. Hearing the praise, Shu Han's face turned red, which was a reaction to the teacher praising the students. You like history, why do you want to study screenwriting? Tang Shuyin asked. Shu Han was silent for a moment, and replied calmly. History is so grand, and I am so small, there is so much I can't learn. Being a screenwriter is different, I can write my own interpretation of history, which is also very interesting. Tang Shuyin agreed that the little guy had his own ideas and there was a reason why the skits he wrote on the forum were so popular. Before they knew it, they had been strolling around the ancient city until evening. The dim street lights lit up, lengthening the two people's backs, the small bar on the street played soothing music, and the bustling crowd also slowed down. Tang Shuyin took Shu Han into a music restaurant. This restaurant is far away from the main street, hidden deep in a not-so-crowded alley. Two glowing words are hung on the door, passing by. The lights in the restaurant were dim. An old man holding a guitar sat quietly on the stage, singing folk songs. There were 3 or 4 tables of guests below the stage, some were singing along, some were tapping to the beat, and they all looked relaxed. Tang Shuyin and Shu Han sat in an empty seat in the corner and waited for 5 or 6 minutes, but no one came to greet them. Just when Shu Han was puzzled, Tang Shuyin explained, the rule here is that we eat whatever they cook. Can it be like this? Shu Han muttered in a low voice. He had never encountered such a place before, but it was quite interesting and a blessing for people who have difficulty making decisions. But, think about it, how many customers will come if they do this? Just like opening a blind box, it might arouse the interest of many people. Thinking of this, Shu Han became even more excited. When the uncle on the stage finished singing a song, the audience applauded in unison. Then an elegant woman walked to the microphone, adjusted her height, and whispered, "Next, the stage is handed over to you." After the woman finished speaking, she walked off the stage with a bright smile on her face. At this time, the boy sitting at the door stood up. Opposite him sat a girl. Judging from their attire, they should be a couple traveling together. Love to Read free novels app has the fastest update, no ads, and the old bookworm customer service can help you find the books you want to read. The boy glanced at the girl in front of him and walked straight to the stage. The girl turned around, her eyes always on the boy's back, her face full of anticipation. The boy stood on the stage. Instead of picking up his guitar, he looked at the girl in the audience with deep affection. He whispered, "I want to sing a song for the girl I love the most, telling her that no matter what you become in the future, I will always be with you." After the boy finished speaking, he connected his phone to the speakers, played the accompaniment, and began to sing along. "Look at the city in the south, because that's where the person I love is." Shu Han listened quietly. The boy was very emotional and it could be heard that he had prepared carefully, though he might not be very proficient yet. At this time, the woman who had just spoken on the stage walked up to them with a tray. Tang, you haven't been here for a long time." "Yeah. Sister Liu, long time no see." Tang Shuyin responded with a smile and took the plate from Sister Liu. Sister Liu's eyes quickly fell on Shu Han, and she smiled warmly. "This time, you brought your boyfriend back. Your mother should be happy then." Without waiting for Tang Shuyin to explain, Sister Liu turned around and left. "You guys take your time eating, I'll go get busy first, we'll talk later." "Okay. You go ahead and do your thing." Tang Shuyin responded politely. There was no usual coldness on her face, but more gentleness. "Is it your boyfriend?" It seemed that the senior sister didn't explain just now, or maybe she didn't have time to explain. Shu Han paused and looked down at the food on the table, 2 steaks, a bowl of pasta, a vegetable salad, and 2 glasses of drinks he had never drunk before. He stared at the steak in front of him in a daze. His second sister often took him to eat Western food before, but he was not used to using a knife and fork. "Can you eat this thing with chopsticks?" "Actually, you can eat it with chopsticks." I looked up at the beautiful sister opposite me. She was already cutting steak, and I didn't have the heart to disturb her. Tang Shuyin held the fork in her left hand and the knife in her right hand, carefully cutting the steaks on the plate into regular shapes. Shu Han's eyes fell on her fair and tender hands. Maybe because of the force, a layer of light pink covered her fair skin. It looked very beautiful. He wanted to hold it. Tang Shuyin noticed his gaze but did not react. Until she finished cutting all the steaks in front of her and pushed them in front of Shu Han. "Eat this." Shu Han immediately retracted his gaze and looked at the steak pushed over by the senior sister. Then he found that she brought his untouched steak in front of him and continued to cut it. Senior, I can do it myself. Shu Han spoke awkwardly. How can I let my senior sister cut the steak for me? This is something I should do. Didn't you say that I have the final say on my territory? Tang Shuyin looked up and spoke with a very natural expression, giving people the feeling of a big sister next door.